This guy looks like a walking skeleton because he is immortal and everybody treats him like a total freak. But how can a so-called monster be so incredibly gentle with stray dogs? One day, this girl wanders into an alleyway just to feed the pups, but three creepy guys start staring her down. She is just way too pretty to ignore, and they start whispering some seriously bad news. That is exactly when our immortal guy who lives right there in the shadows hears everything, and steps right up to them. The second these guys catch a glimpse of his face, they bolt like absolute cowards. I mean, he looks terrifying after all. When the girl spots his face, she totally panics and runs away too. But a little further down the street, she stops in her tracks and thinks to herself, wait, this guy just saved me. I cannot just ditch him like that. So she turns right back around to thank him and tells him that she brought something way better than just dog food. Then she starts gently petting the dogs. The immortal boy is stunned. He truly believes this girl has to be an angel. You see, ever since he was 7 years old, when people figured out his body simply could not pass away, Kim Ji-hyo was locked up in a secret lab, where they treated him like a human guinea pig for years. Here is the crazy backstory. In this world, there are very rare cases of people born with a mutant heart that grants them special powers. Ji-hyo has an immortal heart, meaning nothing can actually take him out. He finally managed to break out of that awful place 3 years ago. But when he was just about to get dragged back in, he chose to sacrifice himself rather than live in a cage ever again. He grabbed a high-voltage wire, taking both himself and his two chasers out of the picture. But those guys forgot one tiny detail only. Gio is immortal. He survived, but his body can only fully heal if he eats a massive amount of food. So he has spent the last 3 years living on the streets hiding from the world. Now the girl's name is Yeji Song. Even though she was totally freaked out by his dark past, she still decides to step up and help him out. She confidently tells him she knows exactly how to stop people from being so afraid of him. Of course, right in the middle of their walk, his arm literally drops off just because his body is still incredibly weak. But even after that massive jump scare, Yeji brings him fresh new clothes and even uses makeup to cover up his spooky scars. She promises to come right back the very next day. You know, for years, everybody only ever looked at Gio as a weird science project or a monster. But for the very first time, his mutant heart actually feels a spark of warmth beating so fast. What could this strange feeling be? However, later that night, reality hits him hard. The lab has been hunting him down for years, which means Yeji will be in massive danger if she stays anywhere near him. So our boy runs away through the night, getting as far as humanly possible. By the very next day, one of the stray dogs actually tracks him down without him even noticing, and suddenly the girl is right there too, completely exhausted from searching for him for hours. She brings plenty of food for the pups, and this time something much better for him to eat too. As soon as he takes a bite, his lost arm begins to rapidly grow right back. It is an absolute shock to witness, but she quickly asks if it is normal for him to heal without making a single sound. Gio calmly explains that it would normally take years for his body to bounce back like this on a basic everyday diet. Hearing that, the girl immediately asks if there is any secret cheat code to speed up his recovery. Our boy thinks about telling her that chugging down a bunch of red juice would do the trick, but he smartly decides to keep that creepy little detail to himself. Instead, he flat out lies, claiming that super fast healing is only possible back at the sketchy lab, and that just eating a good hearty meal is totally fine for now. She curiously asks if the lab actually healed him on purpose, and Gio nods, explaining they only fixed him up so they could keep running their messed up experiments on him round the clock. And that is exactly why those men in suits are relentlessly hunting him everywhere. Yeji finally puts the pieces together and asks if that is the real reason he tried to sneak away all by himself. He looks at her and confirms that if she sticks around, she is going to be in deep trouble too. Yeji stands right up, telling him they need to go straight to the police station. But he heavily sighs, explaining that even if he walks in there right now, they will just treat him like a complete freak, and he might even catch a bullet. But Yeji smiles and tells him not to sweat it, because her older sister is actually a police officer. Dropping a massive bomb, she reveals her sister is also a heart mutant just like him. Gio is totally stunned by this news, but he still hesitates, taking a few seconds to think it over. Yeji looks him deep in the eyes, begging him to trust her, because her sister is genuinely one of the good guys. He quietly watches the girl chatting with the stray dog. She sweetly tells the pups that they are going to be safe now since the rescue shelter is coming to pick them up very soon. Little Potato keeps drooling and happily barking right at our protagonist. Gio gently crouches down to pet the dog, realizing that once again someone has stepped up to help him, and he whispers a soft thank you. This time around, he promises he will not run away like a coward, swearing he will come back to hang out with the little guy. This is the very first time Gio has ever felt something like this. After 3 brutal years of being hunted like an animal, somebody is finally reaching out a helping hand. It feels incredibly weird for him to actually have someone on his side. He starts wondering if he can finally live a normal life without constantly looking over his shoulder. But suddenly, a sleek black car speeds out of nowhere. The blinding headlights completely daze him. Yeji spins around in pure terror. She watches helplessly as Gio gets totally slammed by the car, crashing incredibly hard onto the cold pavement. One of the thugs grabs Heiji and yells to hurry up and catch the bastard. The rest step up, gripping heavy baseball bats. They pin Gio down to the dirt. A guy lights a smoke, grinning that he finally tracked down the damn skeleton. He smirks, deciding to take the kid and make him pay. Tires screech as the cars speed off. Gio is dragged along, tied up with a thick rope. He curses his bad luck, desperately picking at the knots with his bare fingers. This whole mess is entirely his fault. Those creeps took Heiji. Suddenly, he loses his footing and slams into the ground. He feels completely useless, trapped in this weak body. He screams for help, praying someone hears him, until a pack of dogs suddenly shows up. Sprinting toward the car, he struggles but finally snaps the rope. The vehicle screeches to a halt. The thugs look back to see what's going on. The dogs are viciously barking at them. Doors fly open as the men step out. They walk up looking for a fight. One of them laughs, asking if his mutts have completely lost their minds. Gio watches in pure agony. The thugs start violently swinging their bats at the animals. He desperately tries to push himself up. Seeing the dogs risking their lives for him, he knows he has to move. They are getting crushed, bleeding out just to protect him. He crawls toward the fresh blood on the dirt. If he can just absorb it, his body might actually heal. He drags his broken body forward. Meanwhile, the thugs brutally finish off the dogs. Gio freezes as he spots a body right in front of him. Pure blinding rage takes over. Potato is dead. Every single dog around him has met the same brutal fate. Flashbacks hit him of his 10 years locked in that hellhole. They treated him like nothing but a lab rat. For 10 whole years, the same sick morning routine. Needles full of blood and having his organs ripped out alive. Day after endless day, he begged for death, but couldn't even die. He plotted his escape and he finally made it out. He thought he'd finally find happiness out here, but society just treated him like absolute garbage. Everyone looked at him like a monster, but then his heart starts glowing. Heiji and these dogs never gave up on him. They were the only ones who treated him like a real human being. Suddenly, all the spilled blood on the ground rushes straight toward him. It swirls around his body like a dark tornado, wrapping around his legs and arms. He shifts back into his human form. Gio's muscles and skin stitch themselves back together, completely restoring his face. He glances around. It hits him. His body is fully restored. Blood pumps through his veins just like it did when he was a kid. He can't believe it. This crazy power. It came from absorbing the dog's blood. The gangsters panic, unsure of what to do next. One of them rushes forward, yelling to just grab the punk. But Gio slams a fist into his face, crushing him instantly. The guy goes flying and violently smashes into a car, denting the metal with his face. Gio gently picks up his dead dog, holding him close. His voice turns ice cold as he tells them he knows exactly what the most painful death feels like, and he makes a deadly promise he'll only spare the one who spits out where they took Heiji. Meanwhile, in an abandoned junkyard, the goons yank the bag off Heiji's head. Confused and terrified, she demands to know who they are. But as she looks around, she sees thugs swarming the place. And right beside her, something horrifying. Piles of dead bodies. The gang boss aggressively grabs her face. He tells her she's way too loud and sneers, asking exactly how many lives she thinks she has. He spits that if she wants to be mad, since playing the hero for that freak is what dragged her into this deadly mess. He gives her a final warning: shut your mouth right now if you want to stay alive. Because in this place, nobody cares if a couple of kids disappear. Suddenly, the boss's phone starts buzzing. He stands up annoyed, demanding to know why his guy is calling instead of showing up. The voice on the other end nervously reports everything that just went down. The boss snaps, asking what the hell he's talking about. Heiji silently hopes the dogs manage to save him. The thug admits they lost the skeleton. The boss absolutely loses his mind. He smashes his phone into the dirt, screaming that if they don't drag that skeleton back here, they'll be the ones paying with their lives. He viciously grabs Heiji, demanding to know where the freak is hiding. He orders her to spill everything she knows right now, but she desperately cries out that she doesn't know anything. He pulls a gun, asking if she'll still play dumb with a few bullets in her chest. Heiji regrets everything, realizing how foolish she was. She panics, unsure of what to do. Out of nowhere, one of the thugs comes flying through the air behind the boss. He whips around instantly. Standing right in the doorway is a young guy. The boss is caught totally off guard, demanding to know who the hell this kid is. His men are just as confused since the guy looks like absolute street trash. But before they can blink, Gio grips a thug by the throat. The man chokes, shocked by this insane monster-like strength. Gio glares, telling them it's their fault. His dogs are dead. The rest of the gang blindly rushes him, landing a heavy punch right across his face. Gio just takes the hit, casually spitting out a mouthful of blood. He fires back with a massive punch, sending the thug flying. But another guy manages to grab Gio from behind. The attacker lands heavy blows to his back, but Gio doesn't even flinch. He uses his raw strength to crush the guy in front of him. and slammed the guy behind him into the dirt. Everyone is absolutely stunned by his insane power. Meanwhile, Gio asks if they are the ones sent by the Hermes lab. Heiji watches in disbelief, realizing this boy really is the true Gio. The boss grabs her hair, figuring out that this kid is their target. He remembers being told the subject would be completely healed and unrecognizable, almost slipping right past him. Without hesitation, he blasts Gio in the shoulder. The mobster actually thanks him for walking right into their trap. He screams at his crew to grab the heavy gear they got as payment. The whole crew opens fire on the boy. The boss yells that if they take this kid down, they are going to be filthy rich, so they need to keep firing without stopping, so he cannot heal. The barrage of bullets does not stop for a single second. Agony washes over Gio. His skin, tears, and his bones shatter all over again. His lungs feel like they are ripped open, leaving him gasping for air. Heiji screams her lungs out, begging them to stop, but Gio collapses to the ground. He struggles to breathe, yet he fiercely digs his fingers into the dirt. Blood begins to coat his body, drawing from the fallen ones right there. This makes his heart pound even harder. One of the thugs panics and calls out to the boss. He warns him that the kid is coming back to life. Gio rises from the ground like a zombie, standing completely upright. The men keep blindly firing in pure shock. Gio feels every single bullet pierce through him, breaking through his skin, and yet his body just keeps healing. The pain loops over and over, but honestly, it does not hurt nearly as bad as he expected. Flashbacks of the cruel experiments flood his mind. He had been completely crushed back then. What Gio survived for years was a million times worse than this. Then he delivers a brutal hook to one of the shooters, sending the man flying. Gio coldly states that ordinary bullets mean absolutely nothing to him. He tells them he can take this all day long. Suddenly, the thugs realize they are literally being lifted into the air. Gio strikes another goon right in the arm, instantly snapping his bones like twigs. The guy is blasted across the room. A third one turns around in pure panic, but they are all getting wiped out at an insane speed. Gio does not pause for a single second. His blood boils just thinking about those innocent beings who lost their lives to protect him. Another lackey gets tossed aside like a rag doll. Gio slowly walks up to the boss, who frantically yells at him to stay back. The leader threatens to shoot the girl if he takes one more step, but Gio just instantly rocks him with a heavy punch to the face. The real pain is knowing he will never get to see his loyal friends again. The boss is launched backward, crashing right through the solid wall. When the man opens his eyes, absolute terror takes over. He begs for mercy, swearing he will do whatever Gio wants. But Gio coldly whispers that it is way too late for that. He slams the leader's head straight into the ground. The man is totally wrecked. But that is not nearly enough for Gio. He throws another punch. He repeats the same brutal strike dozens of times. He unloads a flurry of attacks in just a few seconds, leaving the guy completely knocked out and done for. Gio finally stands up, his fists totally battered. His payback is finally complete. The whole crew is scattered across the floor around him. He breathes heavily, taking in the chaotic scene. Heiji softly calls out his name, and he calmly walks over to her. She nervously asks if he is okay after taking that many hits, but he just gently pulls her into a warm hug, telling her how relieved he is that she is still alive. The dogs protected her and gave up their own lives in the process. But he was absolutely terrified that she would meet the same tragic end. He is just so thankful she is safe. Heiji asks why he is thanking her and hugs him back tightly. She tearfully admits that she is actually the one who owes him everything. A bit later, the cops arrive to clear out the mess. They arrest the gang leader, chalking up the whole situation to an internal dispute. Watching from a distance, Heiji talks about the arrests. Gio asks if they are actually going to dodge the investigation. The girl says her sister told them to lay low for now. Her sister promised to handle all the legal stuff so they could just walk away. Suddenly, Heiji breaks down in tears, and Gio does too. He looks down at the fallen dogs, whispering heartfelt apologies. He calls out every single one of their names. Heiji cries that it is all her fault, since they rushed in just to save her. She feels horrible for not being able to protect them. Out of nowhere, Gio bites his own finger, murmuring that they shed their blood just for him. The girl asks what on earth he is doing. He explains his own blood has healing powers, desperately hoping it can bring the animals back. Red drops start dripping from his hand. Gio keeps biting down hard, getting frustrated because his fast healing closes the wound too quickly. He forces himself to bleed more. Heiji begs him to stop, saying that this would only break the dogs' hearts. He blames himself for their tragic end, but she gently reminds him how much they truly loved him. They never trusted humans, but they adored Gio. They were just broken souls with a painful past who finally found a friend. Human beings. Gio admits he had no idea, figuring they were just naturally tame. The girl explains that when people get hurt and carry that guilt, they end up suffering too. He looks down, pulling Potato tightly into his arms. She tells him that the dogs came up to him without any fear, because they sense he was broken just like them. Gio softly says, "Thank you for telling him that." Suddenly, a sharp bark echoes right behind them. It is Potato the puppy. Heiji lets out a huge sigh of relief, saying she was so worried and is just glad the little guy is alive. The tiny pup waddles over to Gio. Gio freezes, just staring down at him. He whispers, asking if the puppy is mad at him, but the little guy just gently licks his hand. Heiji smiles, saying the pup clearly adores him as Potato drifts fast asleep right there in Gio's arms. Heiji is torn. She knows she cannot just abandon a tiny baby puppy out on the cold streets. She also realizes those lab guys were definitely not normal, meaning Gio desperately needs a safe place to hide. Making up her mind, she decides to call her sister. She mentions she followed their backup plan, letting her sister handle the rest over the phone. Soon after, Heiji brings them both to her place. It is a massive high-end apartment right in the middle of downtown. She tells Gio to make himself at home. He hesitates, asking if it is really okay for him to be here. He knows he is dangerous to be around, and he really does not want to drag her into trouble. But Heiji brushes it off, reminding him that he literally risked his life to keep her safe. Plus, her sister is dying to meet him. It turns out her sister is investigating a case tied to that exact lab and really needs his help. Finally convinced, Gio steps inside. But as he walks into the living room, he suddenly freezes in front of a mirror. He stares at his reflection in pure shock. For the first time, he sees normal cheeks, a normal nose, and normal lips looking back at him. His face has completely healed back to how it used to be. Ever since he was a kid, the lab's twisted tests always ruined his face before it could heal. His regeneration was so slow back then, and they would just torture him again before he could even recover. Now he is finally seeing his true face. Watching him, Heiji feels her jaw drop the more he starts talking. She admits something has been bugging her this whole time. Now that his face is fully healed, he does not look anything like an older guy. She bluntly asks for his real age. Gio pauses, saying it has been a long time since he even thought about it. Counting quickly on his fingers, he casually says he is 17. Heiji gasps. That is her exact age. She demands to know why. He just stood there, letting her call him Mr. this whole time. Gio softly smiles, saying he did not mind at all. Just being treated like a normal human made him really happy. That answer hits her right in the heart. She finds it incredibly sad but also kind of sweet. They quickly agree to drop the formalities and just use their first names, keeping things totally casual. Down on the floor, little Potato is happily munching away at his meal. Up at the table, Gio is digging into real human food with the exact same energy. Eyes shining, he blurts out that the meal is absolutely amazing. Heiji rubs her neck, looking embarrassed, apologizing that her cooking skills are pretty terrible. But Gio shakes his head wildly. He promises her it is honestly the best thing he has eaten in years. Checking her phone, Heiji sighs, saying her sister cannot make it tonight, since she is super busy with work. Once they clear their plates, she starts cleaning up. Pointing over to the big couch, she tells him he can crash there for the night. She tosses him a thick, warm blanket so he does not freeze. Right after, she excuses herself to finish some homework and disappears into her bedroom. Left alone in the massive living room, Gio just looks around, completely amazed by everything. He stares wide-eyed at the TV, wondering if all these thin screens are always this gigantic. He even notices that the simple house plants look so much brighter than the gloomy ones back at the lab. Sitting down, he sinks right in, realizing the couch is unbelievably soft. It is a million times better than the rock-hard beds he is used to. Over in the corner, the puppy is still going to town on his meal. But suddenly, the little guy starts gagging on a piece of food. The sound makes Gio snap his head around. Seeing the tiny dog coughing uncontrollably, he completely panics. He screams Potato's name and rushes across the room to save him. But the pup just gulps it down and goes right back to chewing, acting like absolutely nothing happened. Potato just stares up at Gio, totally confused by the panic. Gio lets out a small laugh of relief, realizing the pup is totally fine. He finally flops down onto the couch to sleep, whispering that this place feels so incredibly warm. Looking down, he asks if the little guy loves this cozy place too. Thinking about a real name, he points out the dog literally looks like a tiny potato. With a grin, he decides to name him French Fry. The pup just happily blinks his sleepy eyes. In this quiet moment, Gio realizes that this right here, this is true happiness. He got to eat amazing food. He took a long hot shower and now he is resting in a super comfortable spot. But deep down, he knows this dream could be ripped away at any second. His mind drifts back to a dark memory back when he first tried to escape with the other mutants. Back then, his friends were yelling that the exit was just up ahead. But the armed guards spotted them screaming that these were high-level test subjects and they could not let a single one leave alive. Suddenly, a massive explosion rips through the hall, violently blasting the mutants into the air. Heavy concrete crumbles, brutally crushing some of his friends right in front of him. Through the smoke, a ruthless soldier aims a heavy cannon straight at them. He raises his hand and blasts the squad. But the guards are totally shocked when their attack does absolutely nothing. A girl manages to block the whole thing with massive ice walls, screaming at Gio to wake up. Another mutant reaches out, sealing off the path with boulders. They share a fierce look of determination. The girl begs him to run, telling him the exit is right in front of him. He barely makes it out alive. But in the end, they get separated. Right now, he knows she has to be out there suffering somewhere. That is exactly why he swore he would never let anything be taken from him ever again. Not even this tiny bit of peace he just found. If anyone tries to steal it from him again, he won't show any mercy. But the very next morning, a loud scream echoes through the house. He sprints over and yells for Tuijim, desperately trying to find out where the dog went. A little earlier, Heji mentioned she was heading off to school. She promised she would be back soon. She also mentioned her sister was coming over tonight and asked him to keep an eye on the house since she had a ton of work to do. Gio nods and wishes her a good day at class, thinking that school actually sounds pretty fun. Right then, Tuijim starts scratching at the front door. She thinks the dog is acting super weird. She figures he isn't hurt or anything, he is probably just bored and wants to go outside too. Gio asks if she wants him to take the pup for a walk. Heji looks worried, asking if it might be too dangerous since those guys could still be hunting him. But he promises her it will be totally fine. He says no one is going to recognize his face anyway. Hearing that she thinks it's a great idea, she just reminds him to make sure he puts a leash on the dog before they head out. A bit later, he is out walking Tuijim, who is happily rolling around in the dirt. He asks the pup if the collar is uncomfortable, worrying he might have made it too tight. He can't help but wonder if it hurts him. He knows the feeling because he used to wear something just like it, a collar that sent burning pain through his entire body. But right now, they don't have a choice. But right in the middle of his thoughts, Tuijim suddenly vanishes. Panic instantly hits him, and all those terrible memories come rushing back. The little dog is just having the time of his life wandering around the city. Meanwhile, Gio is running everywhere begging the pup to come back. He even digs through the street trash cans and checks under every single car, hoping the dog is just hiding. Then he frantically tears through another dumpster on the sidewalk. He is losing his mind trying to find Tuijim. What if the dog got hit by a car? Or worse, what if somebody actually hurt him? Just last night, he promised he would protect this little guy from everything. That is until he spots something. Right in the middle of a courtyard, a bunch of guys are playing soccer, and there is Tuijim just sitting calmly in the corner. He is just hanging out watching the game like it is nothing. Gio immediately sprints toward him. He wonders if the dog somehow caught his scent from all the way over there. But a teacher suddenly notices him trespassing. The guy tells him to hold on a second and watch his step. But before the teacher can even finish his sentence, the boy completely vanishes from sight. He makes a beeline straight for the dog, totally ignoring everything else around him. The guys just keep playing their soccer game without a care in the world, while the rest of the kids just go about their day in the courtyard. Gio thinks it is so strange seeing everyone this happy in a place that is just a school. But one thing really catches his attention. Some kids are talking about mutants escaping from a lab. A news broadcast mentions that turning in an illegal mutant brings a massive cash reward. He quickly realizes that normal people view mutants as serious threats. He decides to play it safe. He tries to grab Tuijim and get out of there fast, but the little guy wiggles away again. Nearby, a group of girls are filming dance videos. One of them tells her friend she looks absolutely perfect on camera. The girl smiles back, hyping up her friend's looks too. But then Tuijim wanders right up to her. She bends down and starts petting him, completely melting over how cute he is. She decides to record the dog for her feed. But suddenly, Gio pops up in the corner of her screen, making the girls jump out of their skin. Stepping out from behind a tree, he quickly apologizes. He awkwardly explains that he really didn't mean to creep them out, and that he was just trying to get his dog back. The three girls look at him up close and instantly think he is gorgeous in his uniform. They realize he must be a new student, and start dying to know who he is. Gio stays dead silent, then instantly asks if his face showed up on her phone. He gives them a dead serious warning, telling them he absolutely cannot be recorded. But the girl completely brushes. She shoves her phone in his face, asking for his socials. She tells him she just wants to tag him in the clip. Her friends whisper that this is literally the first time they have ever seen her ask a guy for his Insta. The only problem, our guy doesn't even know what Instagram is. Minjeong is already thinking he is completely her type, totally charmed by his shy vibe. He flat out tells her he doesn't have anything like that, leaving the girl totally confused. He gives a polite bow and tells her he appreciates the thought anyway. Her friends are absolutely stunned to see her get rejected like that. Minjeong instantly gets annoyed, thinking he is just playing hard to get. Right then, he scoops the dog up into his arms. He softly apologizes to the little guy, promising he will never let him out of his sight ever again. From across the yard, a guy is watching this go down, and he is absolutely fuming. He is glaring, wondering who this random kid even is. Another guy points out that it is the girl. Taeyoung has a massive crush on, joking that the new kid is using a dog to flirt with her. Taeyoung gets completely enraged, wondering how this nobody has the guts to make a move on his girl. He snatches a soccer ball from his friend, gearing up to kick it right at his head. Taegu kicks the ball with everything he's got. It shoots straight for the new kid's face. But Gio doesn't even flinch. He just looks down at the puppy in his arms, letting the ball smash right into his face. The girls gasp, asking if he's alright as blood drips onto the floor. Taegu quickly plays dumb, claiming his foot just slipped. Minjung whines that the ball almost hit her, then checks on the new guy. But Gio calmly tells Taegu to watch it next time. Taegu just chuckles, whispering to his buddies about how dumb the new kid looks. He mockingly asks if Gio is okay, joking that the last guy, who took a hit like that, got his nose busted. Gio just shrugs it off, saying the puppy was the one who almost got hurt. Taegu gives a fake apology and Gio just waves it away, turning to leave with his pet. Taegu snaps at his crew to look into the new kid hating his guts already. Meanwhile, Gio thinks about how terrified he was of losing his dog Freeze. But thanks to the pup, he actually got to see the school and kids his own age. He finds the whole thing pretty cool, thinking that if he actually went to school, maybe he'd have a bunch of friends. Right then, Taegu calls out to him, putting on a friendly face. He says that since they are in the same grade, they should totally be buddies. He adds that a simple sorry isn't enough for that kick, so he offers to buy him some snacks. Gio innocently asks if the food is good. Taegu promises it's the best. Gio then asks if they sell anything that his dog could eat too. Taegu makes up a smooth excuse saying he was just trying to act tough in front of the girls, and promises to buy them plenty of food. But the second they turn the corner, Taegu punches Gio with everything he has. The rest of the gang smirks, asking if he actually lured the new kid into the alley. Taegu cracks up, bragging that the idiot followed him just for some food. One of the bullies points out that Gio seems a little slow, but they just laugh, joking that they'll shove food down his throat until he chokes. Taegu glares at Gio, calling him a wimp, and demands to know why he was acting so cocky earlier. Gio just blinks, totally confused. Taegu explodes, screaming that he was hitting on Minjung and acting like a crybaby after taking that hit. The whole crew starts laughing in his face. Gio finally realizes this wasn't about making friends, it was an ambush. He calmly turns around, apologizing and saying he'll just leave if he's making them uncomfortable. But the thugs block his way, growling about where he thinks he's going. Gio stares them down, telling them to back off because they are scaring his dog. One of the bullies sneers that the mutt is just as pathetic as its owner, throwing a hard punch. But Gio counters, instantly sending the guy flying with a single strike. The rest of the crew freezes, totally shocked at how their buddy ended up on the other side of the alley. Taegu's jaw drops. Gio barely even swung his arm. Furious, the whole gang rushes him all at once. Taegu screams, asking if he just seriously launched his guy like that. Gio closes his eyes for a split second and his mutant heart starts glowing. He drops every single attacker with terrifying ease, then explodes forward, charging straight at Taegu, fist pulled back. But right before it hits, he stops just an inch from the bully's face, merely pointing his finger. The sheer force of the air pressure pins Taegu against the wall. Gio slams his fist into the brick right above Taegu's head, warning them one last time that he told them to back off because his dog was getting scared. The surviving thugs try to call out to Taegu, but they lose their nerve and sprint away. Trembling, Taegu stares at the deeply cracked brick behind him. He knows that if that fist had connected, his bones would have turned to dust. Realizing he messed with the ultimate predator, he instantly drops to his knees, begging for his life. He even pulls out his phone, showing a picture of his own dog to play on Gio's empathy. Gio instantly decides the guy isn't so bad after all, while Taegu just keeps crying for mercy. Suddenly, Gio's stomach lets out a massive growl. He casually mentions that he's starving from using up all that energy. Taegu is completely baffled, wondering who gets hungry right in the middle of a brutal street fight. He assumes Gio is just pretending to forgive him while subtly demanding a peace offering. Cut to a few minutes later, and they're sitting in the cafeteria. Gio happily thanks him, digging into the huge pile of food. Taegu just watches him from across the table, completely weirded out. He watches Gio happily sharing the snacks with his pup. Taegu just can't figure this kid out. One second he's a total monster, and the next he's acting like a clueless kid. Just moments ago, he launched a full-grown guy into the air. Even a pro athlete couldn't smash a brick wall like that. Sweating, Taegu decides he needs some serious backup, so he dials his older brother. The big bro answers, instantly sensing trouble, and demands to know what's wrong. Taegu nervously asks if he can come save him one more time. Young Chul groans, asking if he got his butt kicked again, complaining that he's busy. But Taegu panics, swearing that this new kid is dangerously strong, and begs his brother to help him out just this once. He then drops the bomb that their target is that red-haired crybaby everyone treats like a total loser. Another guy chimes in, asking just how well he can actually fight, bragging that he'll just go and handle it himself. He says he just needs to head over to the school and drag the target out in no time. Taegu secretly thinks the kid is totally screwed now, but our protagonist actually offers him some food instead. He shyly admits it feels awkward eating all alone. Taegu just tells him to eat the whole thing, saying he can do that as much as he wants. Taegu just stares, wondering how a meek guy like this could possibly be so strong. His mind flashes back to what went down earlier, The kid definitely smashed up his hand, punching that solid wall, yet now it looks completely fine. That ridiculous strength, sending guys flying through the air plus wounds healing that fast. It's definitely suspicious. Tego suddenly recalls a rumor about how heart mutants can possess all sorts of crazy abilities. He starts wondering if our protagonist is actually one of them. Geo asks where he even got that idea from. Tego realizes he's never actually seen a real mutant before, and this kid looks exactly like your average high schooler. Messing with one would be extremely dangerous, and even those older brothers could end up badly hurt if they walk into this blind. On the phone, they ask if they're actually dealing with a heart mutant. Tego confirms the bad news and warns them to just drop the whole thing, because it's way too risky. But young Chul just laughs, saying that's awesome and that they'll personally handle the punk, telling Tego to keep stalling him until they arrive. Just then, our protagonist announces he's done eating and is about to take off. Tego frantically points out that they still have plenty of time left on their lunch break, but Geo insists on heading back home. Tego's mind races, desperately trying to figure out how to keep the kid busy until the gang gets there. He suddenly suggests they both just ditch the rest of the school day. They end up at a local arcade called Gameland. Geo is completely starstruck, staring in awe at all the bright flashing lights. He softly admits he didn't even know places like this actually existed in the world. It's his very first time stepping into somewhere so fun. He points excitedly, noticing the exact same plushie that Heji keeps on her backpack. Tego looks at him in total disbelief, asking if it's genuinely his first time seeing a claw machine, and pushes him to absolutely give it a try at least once. He explains the basics, showing him how to maneuver the claw to grab the toy. Against all odds, the rookie smoothly snags the plushie and drops it right down the prize chute. Geo lights up, cheering happily that he finally won a doll, just like the girls have. Tego chuckles, seeing the kid having an absolute blast, thinking it'll be a total breeze, keeping him distracted until the older guys show up. He then casually asks if Geo has ever been to a coin karaoke booth. He explains it's super simple. You just punch in a track, grab the mic, and sing your heart out. Our protagonist shyly admits he doesn't actually know any pop songs, but Tego encourages him to just sing whatever pops into his head. Surprisingly, the kid ends up belting out a little nursery rhyme. He sings it with dead serious determination, and Tego sweats, wondering how long he plans to keep this intense performance going. Geo then quietly explains that it's honestly the only song he actually knows. It was a sweet lullaby his mom taught him right before they were torn apart, when he was just 7 years old, and his life hasn't been normal ever since. Tego's smile totally fades, struck hard by that heartbreaking confession. He finds himself wondering who this kid really is deep down, and if all heart mutants carry this much painful trauma. Geo's tragic past really tugs at his heartstrings. Right then and there, he decides to give the kid the best day of his life, promising to show him a whole new world of fun. They hit up the arcade drum kit, smashing the beats, and spend hours button mashing on the fighting games together. Our protagonist even hilariously trips and faceplants right on the dance machine. Tego bursts out laughing at the clumsy mess, teasing him for having 2 left feet. The whole day just flies by in a blur of genuine fun. Geo smiles warmly, saying today was absolutely amazing, and the very first time he's ever had this much fun. But suddenly, Tego's phone starts buzzing in his pocket. Annoyed, he wonders who's calling him so late. It's Young Chul barking at him to pick up the damn phone. Panic hits as Tego suddenly remembers his actual mission was to set Geo up for a beatdown, but he completely forgot because they were having such a blast. He got so caught up in the moment that they even snapped some cute photo booth pics together. He looks at the strip of photos with a soft, guilty expression. In one of them, Geo is happily posing with his dog. Later on, in a shady, dark alleyway, Tego meets up with the gang alone. He bows his head, apologizing and lying that he found out the kid definitely isn't a mutant after all. The thugs immediately get pissed off. Tego tries to justify it in his head, thinking he had no choice. He remembers hearing about how that little dog is literally the kid's only family in the world, and tells the gang he just felt too damn sorry for him. He totally gets it, because his own dog is already 17 years old and he's terrified of losing him. Just the thought of his pet passing away makes him want to tear up. He's still rambling on about his dog when a heavy fist suddenly flies right at his face. Young Chul delivers a brutal punch, sending Tego crashing to the ground. The thug stomps over while he's reeling in pain. He viciously grabs Tego by the hair, yanking his head back, and snarls, asking if he thinks this is some kind of sick joke, demanding to know exactly where the mutant kid is right this second. He glares down at him, threateningly, asking if he's too stupid to understand plain English. The whole gang gathered just to catch this one guy. Tegu tries to explain that he spent the entire day with the kid and didn't feel any mutant aura at all. He swears the guy is just an ordinary loser who passed out after 2 arcade games. He says the boy is a total idiot and apologizes for dragging them out for nothing. Young Chul asks if he is absolutely sure that no one else is around. He asks if Taegu is just mad about taking a beating from his own brother. He warns that the kid's face gives his lie away. He orders him to spit out the real reason he suddenly changed his mind. He asks if the situation scares him because mutants are dangerous. He says they are not walking away from this empty-handed, and laughs right in the kid's face. Taegu asks if they are being serious, but Youngchul promises to hand over $500 if he just gives up the mutant. He will get it all in cash because a broker is already lined up for the deal. Taegu wonders if this is actually human trafficking. Mutant kidnapping rings have been popping up lately, and word on the street is that the government and research labs pay top dollar for them. He thought it was just a dark rumor, and now he is watching his brother do things he only ever saw online. He mutters that the kid is completely useless, but Youngchul lands a brutal kick on him. The impact slams the boy's back hard against the wall. Taegu realizes this situation just turned into a living hell. The boss orders his thug to beat him until the kid finally breaks. He starts pounding him relentlessly. Taegu curls up into a ball, trying to block the savage blows. He groans in pain, flashing back to the past. He used to get beaten up exactly like this back then. The guys used to call him a filthy nerd. Youngchul asks who gave the freshmen the right to bully their friends. The bully runs away apologizing. Taegu calls out to his older brother. Youngchul says the boy belongs to his dojo and nobody touches him here. Taegu thought his brother looked so cool and fought so well. He wanted them to be real brothers because they both seemed amazing. Back in the present, Youngchul warns that he has known him a long time and can spot a lie from a mile away. Then he says the kid is loyal and awesome, but he warns that selling him to the broker is no joke. He explains that trying to sell him solo only brings in $200 or $300 tops. When your body is in agony, loyalty means nothing. He remembers how the boy wanted to live an amazing life. He once said that being greedy for money is the most shameful way to live. So the two decided to live an awesome life together, but now Taegu says he is sorry for everything. He admits he does not feel amazing at all right now. He wonders what he just said to the guy. Youngchul gets annoyed and says he gets it. Taegu apologizes again and says the words just slipped out. The chained fist swings right at him, but Geo grabs Youngchul by the arm at that exact moment. He points out that the chain is almost as thick as a finger and has weld marks all over it. He explains that taking a hit from that takes a very long time to heal. Everyone starts wondering who the hell this guy is. Taegu wants to know how he got there, but Geo just says he came looking for him because he was taking too long. Taegu screams at him to run and explains that these guys are the brothers he knows. He confesses that he actually called them here to take Geo down. He admits he even leaked his secret about being a heart mutant. He grinds his teeth, furious at his own betrayal. He says he was just pissed off about getting beat up earlier and apologizes for what he did, but Geo just wants to know why he stood there taking a beating. Youngchul stares in disappointment and Taegu has no answer. At that moment, one of the punks violently smacks Geo in the head. The others close the circle and start beating him up. They strike Geo in the head over and over. The terrified little dog starts barking in desperation. Meanwhile, Taegu tries to shield Geo from the hits. Another thug asks if this is really the mutant who decided to serve himself up on a silver platter, but Geo kneels down and touches the blood splattered on the ground. He absorbs it all right through his fingertips. The guy watches this and completely freaks out. Geo strikes, shattering his jaw. He dodges the incoming attacks with insane speed. He uses his momentum and sends the man flying away. Then Geo finally stands up straight. He steps in front of the group and glares at everyone. Youngchul screams, ordering them to kill him. All the guys charge at him with baseball bats. They start bashing him ruthlessly, but suddenly, one of the thugs goes flying into the air. Every single one of them meets the same fate. Geo dashes in and slams another punk to the dirt. He drops another one instantly. He looks up as another guy comes swinging with a baseball bat. The bat cracks violently against his head, but our protagonist just drives a heavy punch right into the guy's back. The punk crashes into the wall, completely shattering it. The gang is totally freaking out over his crazy strength, wondering if he's even human. But Geo just grabs the guy right by the throat. Youngchul charges in with his blade, barking at his crew to back him up. He figures this kid is just flesh and bone, and that a few good slashes will put him down for good. The strike lands hard and our boy coughs up a bit of red, muttering about the pain. Young keeps swinging the blade wildly until Geo casually catches the sharp edge with his bare hand. The big guy freezes in pure shock. Geo tells him to knock it off with a poking, then effortlessly yanks the weapon right out of his grip. Youngchul starts shaking like a leaf, terrified of whatever kind of monster heart is keeping this kid on his feet. Geo casually says his heart is none of his business before driving the blade straight into the big guy's thigh. The rest of the thugs instantly lose their nerve and try to bail, but our boy dashes forward. He takes them all down with terrifying lightning-fast speed. He tells them that since they know his secret, nobody is walking away. Taego happily hops back into the scene, seeing the two street thugs totally wrecked on the ground. Gio drags them right over to Taegu, who immediately calls out his name. Taegu frantically asks if he is doing all right, and offers to call for some backup, but our boy just brushes it off. Taegu is still freaking out over the nasty wound, but then the guilt hits him hard and he looks away in total shame. He deeply apologizes for the mess, clenching his fist and actually punching himself, crying out that Gio needs to pick better friends. After all, he totally stabbed his buddy in the back. He begs for forgiveness for selling him out, explaining he used to run with this crew. He figured hanging out with them would keep him safe, but they turned out to be pure garbage. He slowly looks up. Right then, Gio holds out a small cloth. He casually mentions Taegu's nose is bleeding and tells him to wipe it up. Taegu nervously takes the cloth, asking if it is really meant for cleaning up red spots. That is when he realizes it is literally a puppy pee pad. Taegu sighs and says he will just use it anyway, before he catches another beating. But Gio completely changes the mood, bringing up how Taegu just said he didn't deserve to be his friend. Gio smiles and says it looks like the feeling is mutual, so they are totally cool. Taegu's eyes go wide at those words. The waterworks instantly start flowing. He pulls our boy into a massive hug, bawling his eyes out and crying about how Gio is such a solid dude. Breaking the moment, young Chul begs to be let go, swearing he has definitely learned his lesson. He promises to keep his mouth shut about the whole heart mutant thing. Taegu instantly snaps, yelling at him to shut his trap. He lands a swift kick right in the guy's face, warning him that he should have been begging for mercy instead. Taegu spits that this guy is total scum, acting like an absolute pig. He claims he knew the guy was bad news the second he spotted him. Gio just raises an eyebrow, asking if they were not literally just buddies. Moving on, Taegu asks what the game plan is for these losers now. But young Chul frantically waves his hands, begging them to hold on a second. He swears he is completely done, causing trouble, and practically begs them not to call the cops. Right on cue, a deafening siren wails in the background. The boys in blue pull up, announcing they are from the local precinct and got a noise complaint from a neighbor. The gangsters immediately start shaking in their boots. Taegu smirks, realizing the cops showed up at the perfect time. He points a finger, yelling that these creeps are involved in human trafficking. He tells the officers that if they raid their hideouts, they will find a mountain of dirty evidence. He hypes it up, saying these guys are highly dangerous threats and the cops need to lock them all away. But right then, young Chul flips the script and starts screaming. He wildly begs the officers to save him, crying that his bones are completely shattered and his leg just got sliced open. He acts like the cops are his guardian angels, whining about how they were just brutally attacked. Taegu is completely dumbfounded, shouting out, "Who attacked who, you jerk?" He tries to explain that these thugs were actually trying to snatch Gio, causing this whole messy showdown. But young Chul just points a shaky finger at Gio, loudly pointing out that the kid does not have a single scratch on him, while his entire crew is painted black and blue. Taking the hint, the rest of the thugs immediately start playing the victim card. The cops bark at everyone to shut up and cool down, saying they will sort out this entire mess downtown. Desperate, young Chul yells out that our boy is actually a heart mutant. He claims that is exactly how one skinny kid managed to absolutely wreck their whole crew single-handedly. Instantly, the officers' faces drop, glaring at Gio with total disgust. They step up aggressively, asking if he really is a mutant, and demand to see his official ID and registration. Gio nervously mutters that he does not have any of that stuff. The cops cross their arms, asking if he is seriously unregistered with the government, warning him that he is breaking the Special Mutant Act. They decide to forcefully register him right then and there, barking orders for him to hand over his ID and demonstrate his powers. Our boy is completely caught off guard, totally freezing up as the panic sets in. His mind races, knowing exactly how much trouble he will be in if those creepy lab coats get a hold of his official file. He realizes that the second his name hits that system, the government will be tracking his every single move. Just as things look bad, Heiji smoothly steps in, telling the officers to hold their horses. She gives them a super polite, innocent smile. The cops immediately get defensive, demanding to know who this random girl is. But instead of explaining herself, Heiji just holds out her ringing phone and calmly tells them they might want to answer it. Confused, the officer grabs the device to hear whoever is on the other end of the line. Supervisor Hein from the mutant department gets on the line. The officer totally freaks out and rushes to introduce himself. Heine drops the bomb. This is a core mutant kidnapping in progress. She orders him to lock up the thugs immediately. She makes it clear that the mutant is just a witness and needs to walk free. As the team leader, she adds, she promises to handle all the paperwork. The officer agrees in a heartbeat. He hangs up and screams at his guys to cuff the thugs and let everyone else walk. Young Chul is totally lost. He demands to know what is going on and exactly who was on that phone. Someone with enough power to shut his whole crew down. He really wants to know who that girl was. Meanwhile, Gio is just as confused. How did she even know he was there? Yeji jumps in, explaining she spotted Gio back at school, surrounded by some super sketchy guys, so she decided to tail him. Our boy asks if she means Taegu still trying to process the crazy situation. Taegu is practically drooling, calling her the school goddess. He is so jealous of Gio right now. Ignoring him, Gio walks right up to the car and demands to know their plan. Did the Hermes lab put a hit out on him? Young Chul shakes his head. He has never even heard of that place. They were just hired to hand him over to a local broker. He explains that these guys deal exclusively in core mutants. Hearing this, Gio makes a bold choice. He needs to find these brokers. He wants to follow the trail before this thug gets locked up. Yeji immediately shouts, "No way." She absolutely refuses to let him go. It is way too dangerous. She warns him that he has no idea how terrifying the underworld really is. Her sister warned her about this. These guys hunt core mutants for fun. They are complete monsters. But Gio looks right at her and says that is exactly why he needs to find them. Yeji is totally baffled. Why on earth is he so obsessed with tracking down a shady broker? Our hero just scratches his cheek. He quietly explains that this might be his only chance to find his friends through these exact same people. Taegu blinks. Wait, didn't Gio literally just say he had 0 friends? Gio clarifies. He didn't have friends in the outside world, but back in the lab he lived with a bunch of other kids. And let me tell you, life in there was absolute torture. They faced brutal experiments every single day, until one morning they dragged him into a strange new room. He had never been that deep in the facility before and he was terrified. What twisted tests were they going to run this time? Suddenly, a massive shower of swords rains down. Our boy stares at the flying blades, realizing that the scientists are going to do this over and over again. Panic sets in, but he knows if he backs down, the punishment will be 100 times worse. The heavy doors slide open, and the tension in the room is crazy. A mutant kid is chucking knives at an ice-controlling girl while another boy sits in the corner frantically trying to control a swarm of bees. Gio is completely frozen by the chaos. Suddenly, a stray knife slips out of a kid's hand, flying straight for Gio's head. He moves to dodge, but the ice girl is way faster. She instantly freezes Gio solid, right before the blade can hit him. The other kid gasps. A few seconds later, Gio thaws out. The girl smirks, getting exactly what she wanted. She smacks the knife thrower on the back of the head. What were you thinking? He isn't one of the lab monsters. She scolds him to watch out for the lab coats. Meanwhile, Gio is just standing there totally bewildered. The other kids rush over, their eyes shining with excitement. Feeling incredibly shy, Gio tries to hide his face, but they notice right away. They quickly tell him it is totally fine, joking that he just looks like a walking skeleton because of his mutant powers. They ask if this is his very first time in the learning class. And just like that, everyone starts warmly introducing themselves. That was the day Gio finally made his friends. It turns out this special room gathers all the test subjects to give them a basic standard education. Since every single kid in there is a mutant going through the same hell, they instantly bonded. These classes only happened a few times a year, so they rarely got to hang out. Back in the present, Gio looks lost in thought. Taegu is literally crying, asking what kind of tragic life his new buddy had to live. Yeji softens up. She realizes he really did have friends after all and softly asks where they are now. Gio explains that on the night they finally escaped, the lab guards hunted them down, forcing the group to scatter. Yeji pieces it together. That is exactly why he needs the broker. These guys might have tracked his friends down. She looks at him with determination, telling him to go after the guy, and promises to back him up 100%. Taegu completely agrees. He says it is a good thing he swiped Young Chul's phone. The broker's number has to be in there. He scrolls through the contacts and sees a scheduled meetup for 7 p.m. Gio checks the time. That is literally right now. He needs to move. A little later, across town in a dark warehouse, a bunch of thugs rush a hooded figure with knives drawn. The man effortlessly dodges every single strike, then casually forms a glowing blade in his bare hand. He shakes his head, mocking them. If you swing a knife like that, you won't cut a thing. A second later, every single thud hits the floor. The gang boss levels his gun, scoffing that knives won't even leave a scratch on this guy. He yells at his crew that they need serious firepower. But in a flash, his revolver is sliced clean in half. The boss just freezes in pure shock right in front of the mutant. Chiwon smirks, bragging that a good blade can slice right through solid steel when you hold the power of the sword heart. One of the thugs tries to make a run for it, but he takes a brutal hit and drops to his knees. Chiwon casually wishes him better luck next time. His phone buzzes and he pulls it out to see who's texting him. The playful look on his face instantly turns dead serious. The text is from someone wanting to sell a product immediately. Looks like a new client just lined up. Meanwhile, Gio remembers the guy saying he would meet him in this exact alley. He glances around, confirming he is definitely in the right spot. He peeks around the edge of a shipping crate. He figures he still has about 30 minutes before his meeting with the broker. He thinks about how this broker actually traffics humans with special hearts, and rumor has it that the guy himself might even be a mutant. A flashback shows Heiji asking if he is seriously going to meet this guy. She warned him that those hunters are aggressively tracking down hearts, and word on the street is that some of them are mutants too. But Gio just brushed it off, saying it proves the broker deals with plenty of mutants, making him the perfect key to tracking down his missing friends. He told her to just relax because today, he is just doing some recon from a safe distance, and with his powers, making a quick getaway would be a piece of cake. Back in the present, he crouches low, recalling that sweet lie he told Heiji. The dark reality is that these guys are literally selling mutants just like him. Given half a chance, they would wipe them all out. He realizes that if a fight breaks out, he needs to grab a weapon for a deadly sneak attack. If he is up against heart mutants, just charging in blindly is a death sentence. To actually beat one, you have to figure out their specific power first. Suddenly, a throwing knife zeroes in on him. Gio barely dodges out of the way, and the solid poles behind him get sliced clean through. He is absolutely stunned by the raw cutting power of that blade. From the shadows, Chuan calls out asking if a little rat is hiding there. He mocks the kid for being way too obvious lurking in the alley like that, demanding to know if he is a cop. Gio tenses up, wondering if this guy is actually the broker. Staring down the guy holding the knife, he starts to question whether he is just an ordinary human. He figures that if the guy is normal, taking him down is going to be a walk in the park. So gathering strength in his grip, he explodes forward at full speed. He is dead certain the guy won't even have time to blink. But his fist violently halts mere inches from the man's face. He is totally confused for a split second until he gets a good look and realizes the face staring back at him belongs to his old friend Chuan. Chuan tightens his grip on his knife, glaring as he demands to know how this stranger knows his name. Without hesitating, he lunges forward, unleashing a lightning-fast flurry of slashes on Gio. Our hero instantly collapses to the ground, but as he scrambles to get back on his feet, panic sets in. He cannot move a muscle because his tendons have been completely severed. Chuan sliced right through them in the blink of an eye. And that blade is no joke. His swordsmanship is on a whole other level. A memory flashes back to when they were on the run together. Heavy boulders came crashing down toward them, but they were sliced into dust before hitting the ground. Chuan was the one protecting them, boldly declaring he would carve out a path for their escape. Snapping back to reality, Chuan aggressively demands again how he knows his name. But then he notices something incredibly weird. He narrows his eyes, asking how this guy is even standing up with his tendons sliced wide open. Gio locks eyes with him and drops the bomb. He is Kim Gio, the very same guy who used to be just a walking skeleton. Chuan is totally thrown off by this, and asks if he really means the kid from the nightmare lab. Gio smiles, saying it's really him. He survived, and it's been way too long. Chuan grills him with more questions, trying to poke holes in his story. Gio calmly explains that his body fully regenerated, thinking his old buddy is finally putting the pieces together. But instead of a hug, Chuan grips his blades tighter as Gio rushes toward him and hurls a barrage of throwing knives at blinding speed. Gio somehow manages to stay standing after the brutal hit. Breathing heavily, he says it looks like Chuan actually recognized him, but he really needs to know why his own friend is trying to kill him. Chuan glares, saying that watching those deep wounds heal before his eyes proves it really is Kim Gio. Gio nods, telling him to take a good look at his face. But Chuan doesn't care. He charges in again, blade flashing as he delivers a lethal slash that Gio dodges by a hair. Gio dives into a roll, his mind racing to figure out what the hell is going on and why his former ally is going for the kill. Chuan lunges again, screaming that Gio knows exactly why this is happening better than anyone else, and relentlessly follows up with a vicious combo slicing right into our hero's arms and legs. Gio grimaces, realizing that no matter how hard he tries to dodge, he is getting cut up every single time. If he keeps taking hits like this, he is going to bleed out fast. He realizes he has no choice but to force his buddy to calm down first, and ends up taking a brutal blade straight through his arm to stop him. Chuan now stands menacingly right over his old friend. Jaewon taunts him, asking if fists can really beat a sword. Jigo knows exactly how dangerous this guy is, but then Jaewon realizes something crazy. Our boy used his own arm as bait just to trap the blade. In a flash, Jiho grabs his hand with brutal force, yanking him forward with everything he's got. Catching Jaewon totally off guard, Jiho slams him right into a nearby concrete pillar. As the dust settles, Jaewon admits he thought Jiho was weak, but now seeing his raw power, he demands to know why he ran away back then, if he could fight like this. Jiho is totally lost. What are you talking about? That's when Jaewon flashes back to their lab escape. One of the kids got caught by a guard while the rest hid. Jaewon desperately needed more metal to forge an iron pipe. They were completely surrounded, staring death in the face. And that was the exact moment Jiho supposedly abandoned everyone and bolted. Back in the present, Jiho tries to explain himself, insisting he had no choice, and that staying meant everyone would die. But Jaewon just touches the wall, calling him a coward. Instantly, all the metal reacts to his hand. He smirks, saying he knows all about Jiho's healing factor, warning him that getting sliced into pieces will take time to heal. He dares Jiho to try and tank this next attack. Jiho braces to block with his arm, but out of nowhere, his stomach gets slashed. Jaewon suddenly appears right behind him, whispering that Times was the real threat all along. The attack was so strong, even the solid iron beams were sliced clean in half. From a distance, bystanders hear the crash and start panicking. Heji quickly tells Taeyong to call the cops. Meanwhile, back at the construction site, Jaewon watches in shock as Jiho heals instantly, finding it totally insane that he walked away from that hit without a scratch. Finally, catching his breath, Jiho tells him he's got it all wrong. He never ran away. He fought to the bitter end, to protect everyone at that lab, and he only came here to save the ones left behind. Jaewon pauses, wondering if this whole thing was just a massive misunderstanding. Hearing the sirens and the crowd outside, Jaewon finally backs off. Admitting he caused way too much of a scene, he tells Jiho to meet at his hideout if he wants to talk. So much has happened since that day, and they have a lot to catch up on. Jiho hesitates, staring at him. Jaewon has completely changed. He used to be this upbeat, charming kid, and Jiho can't help but wonder what broke him. Cut to the present. Jaewon is aggressively chopping an onion like a master chef. Jiho just stands there, jaw dropped, watching the guy flip ingredients in the air and put on an absolute show. Totally captivated. Jiho looks around, seriously doubting if this bustling burger joint is actually a secret hideout, trying to process what on earth is going on. A crowd of girls is practically swooning over how handsome Jaewon is, while Jiho is left entirely speechless. He really can't believe this is the hideout, finding the whole situation pure madness. Later on, when the rush dies down, Jaewon takes a seat. Jiho feels super awkward as Jaewon points out his unemployed status, then glances over and asks who the two spies are. Jiho introduces Heji and Taeyong as his friends. As Jaewon pokes fun at Jiho for not having a job, Heji fires back, defending him by saying he's been through hell, and Taeyong chimes in saying Jaewon has no idea. Brushing it off, Jaewon asks Jiho to start from the top, since he claimed he didn't run away. Jiho takes a deep breath. Back when the guards surrounded them, he heard the unmistakable ticking of a bomb. He'll never forget the sound of that fuse burning down. The men had completely boxed them in and were ready to blow the whole building to the ground. Only the toughest would have survived that blast. So Jiho made a split-second choice. He grabbed as many explosives as he physically could and sprinted away, running for his life until everything detonated. He wasn't sure if it was the blast impact, but he eventually woke up stranded in the middle of a forest. All this time, he truly believed the rest of them made it out alive. Hearing this, Jaewon admits he remembers a massive explosion going off. Touching a scar on his own face, Jaewon asks if Jiho really tanked those bombs just for them. He hesitates, unsure if he should buy this wild story. Jiho totally gets that it sounds insane, but he swears on his life it's the truth. There were just too many bombs, and zero time to think. Suddenly, tears well up in Jaewon's eyes as he softly says he believes him. Our boy is thrown off by this sudden emotion. Then Jaewon slides a massive mouth-watering burger across the table, smiling as he says he knew things would turn out okay. When Jiho asks if it's really for him, Jaewon tells him it's on the house, a little reward for all the hard times he went through. Just then, a group of fangirls runs up begging for a selfie with the handsome chef. Jaewon casually poses for the camera, while Jiho is left awkwardly sitting in the background. Looking back, Jaewon gives a sincere apology, feeling terrible for almost taking his head off, before actually listening to his side of the story. But Jiho just laughs it off with a grin. Don't sweat it, man. It didn't even hurt. Jiho raves about the food, joking that he is jealous of anyone who gets to eat like this every single day. Jaewon smiles, telling him just to ask if he wants seconds. After all, he is the manager here. Jiho gets hyped, pointing out how totally normal Chiwon looks now. Chiwon just brushes it off, bragging that blending in was a piece of cake. He tells Jiho that he can have a normal life too, even offering him a spot to work at the shop. He even promises to pull some string, but Jiho pumps the brakes. He suddenly remembers that they bumped into each other right where he was supposed to meet that shady broker. He demands to know why Chaewon is rolling with that crowd. Jiho snaps, reminding him that those jerks were the ones who locked them up in the lab in the first place. He needs answers. How could Chaewon ever team up with the enemy? Chaewon quickly defends himself. Scratching the back of his neck, he explains that it was all just an act. He is only playing the part of a broker. His master plan: bait the guys, snatching up mutants and wipe them off the map entirely. Jiho stares at him, asking if he is actually being serious right now. Chaewon nods, dead serious. The hero lets out a huge sigh, admitting that is a massive relief. So Chaewon runs a restaurant by day and hunts down underground dealers by night, shrugging that someone has to do the dirty work. Jiho is honestly blown away by his hustle. After all, his buddy is just trying his best to help out. Jiho smiles, telling Chaewon that if he ever needs backup, just say the word. At the end of the day, Jiho only went there to track down what happened to their friends anyway. Chaewon looks surprised. Then he drops his guard and admits he actually could use a hand. He explains there is a specific target he needs to take down. Having Gio's raw power would make things way smoother. If they corner this guy, they might finally figure out where the rest of their crew is being held. He holds out a fist for a bump, saying the backup would be awesome. Gio grins, telling him they can head back together. The two finally say their goodbyes once the shift is over. Gio thanks the other two for giving him the space to catch up with an old buddy. Tato raises an eyebrow, asking if that guy was legit a friend. Because honestly, he could have been lying through his teeth. Heji nods, admitting she was freaking out when the dude dropped that he was an underground dealer. The hero just waves it off, telling them to chill. After all, his friend has not changed one bit since the old days. Heji asks how they are even supposed to link up if Gio does not own a phone. But the hero just smirks, holding up a phone he swiped from Youngshul. Cut to a dark alleyway where a guy is sprinting for his life. Thugs are screaming, trying to box him in. Panicking, he turns around and shoots a weird liquid from his hands. The fluid splatters all over the pursuers, sending the thugs slipping and crashing hard onto the concrete. The running kid catches his breath, thinking his power is pretty slick. But bam, another goon decks him right in the jaw. The thug grabs him, growling, asking where the hell he thinks he is going. The mutant begs for mercy, crying that his power is not even worth anything since all he can do is squirt out some oil. The brute just yanks him up by his hair, mocking him for even calling himself a mutant. Another thug laughs, pointing out that not every freak is actually powerful, and that trash like him are practically just weak, normal humans. But the boss smirks, saying a bounty is a bounty and this is still easy cash, since the payout is a cool $1 million a head. The kid goes into full panic mode. But suddenly, Saiwon steps out of the shadows, resting a hand heavily on the thug's shoulder, and asks if that chump change is really all this guy's life is worth. The thug freezes, turning around and shouting, demanding to know who this guy is and where he came from. Slash. In a flash, the thug's arm hits the floor. Saiwon coldly tells them that if they are going to throw their lives away, they should charge a higher fee. Furious, the rest of the gang roars and charges right at him. Saiwon just sighs, saying he is going to wrap this up quickly, and vanishes. A second later, he flickers back into view. Every single thug drops to the ground, sliced to pieces. He then lunges at the last guy standing. The terrified goon whips out a gun and aims it right at his head. Saiwon calmly asks if the guy knows anything useful. His eyes lock onto the weapon, noting that it is made entirely of metal. With a glint in his eye, he triggers the power of the sword heart. The thug yanks the trigger in a panic, but the gun is completely jammed solid. The guy stares at his weapon, totally freaking out. Turns out, a bunch of tiny razor-sharp blades had just manifested right inside the gun's barrel. Crunch. The metal spikes burst out, shredding the guy's hand in an instant. Screaming in agony, he drops the piece and falls to his knees right at Siwon's feet, while Siwon chillingly warns him to stay away from anything metallic from now on. The oil mutant on the ground looks up, crying tears of joy and thanking his savior. He babbles about how they are both mutants, sobbing that he really thought he was a goner until Siwon showed up. But Siwon coldly tells the kid to shut his mouth. Saiwon pulls out his phone, dialing up the boss. He flatly reports that the target mutant is officially secured. He confirms the kid is ready to be shipped straight to the lab. The oil mutant freezes, confused and terrified, stammering to ask what he means, but passes out cold a split second later. Siwon sighs, muttering that the kid talks way too much. Plot twist, Siwon is not a hero at all. He is actually the underground dealer planning to sell the poor guy. The boss chuckles over the line, saying that is classic Siwon for you. He praises him, saying his skills are just on a whole different level compared to those basic lab rats. But Siwon cuts him off, stating he has got something way bigger to report. He reveals that he finally tracked down Kim Gio, the one holding the resurrection heart. The guy on the other end goes dead silent, completely stunned by the massive drop. Saiwon smirks, bringing up that massive bounty they promised for capturing this specific target, and asks if that blank check is still on the table. The boss immediately confirms without a single doubt. Chaewon's eyes narrow as he guarantees he will have him delivered by tomorrow. Cut to later, back at the apartment. He chops up some carrots for dinner, his mind completely focused on how to trap Kim Jiho. Luring him in will be super easy, since the guy does not suspect a thing. But the real issue is Jiho's crazy strength. He is definitely not that weak little kid anymore, and his healing powers are just insane. Normal attacks will not even leave a scratch, so he needs to find a spot surrounded by solid metal. A little later, he calls out that the curry is ready. A young girl in a wheelchair cheers, telling him he is the absolute best brother ever. Siwon smiles, saying he tossed in some extra potatoes just for Chaewon. The girl lights up and thanks him. He gently pats her head and tells her to let him know if she needs anything else. She looks up, asking him to sit down and eat with her. But Siwon sighs, explaining he has to head out again tonight. Chaewon pouts a bit, asking if he is seriously leaving right now. Siwon heads for the door, telling her to go ahead and eat, but playfully asks her to save him a plate. Outside, night finally falls. Meanwhile, in another apartment across town, Heji peels an orange. She cannot stop thinking about Jiho and his totally exhausting day. After everything that went down, she just knows the guy has to be completely drained of energy. She remembers hearing that meat and fresh fruit are great for boosting stamina, so she decides to make a special meal for him. She stacks up this weird messy mountain of tangerines and strawberries. She figures if the AI said this combo tastes good, then it has to work right. She admits to herself she could never pull this off without the AI helping her out, and even starts wondering if she actually has a hidden talent for cooking. Just then, her sister Yoon walks in and asks if she has eaten yet. The two immediately start bickering, and Yoon makes a disgusted face at the bizarre food mountain. Heji calls her sister crazy and snaps that she knows absolutely nothing about cooking. She mentions their other sister will not be home until morning, and tells Yoon to just go to bed early. At the same time, Jio casually says he is doing fine and is just waiting for Chaewon to call. The girl asks if he is really that happy about reuniting with his old friend. He smiles, admitting that he missed the guy a lot. She points out that they have not known each other for very long, but she has never seen Jiho looking this calm and peaceful. Jio explains that Chaewon means the absolute world to him. He throws it back to the past when his buddy first woke him up, asking what the heck he was doing there. In the flashback, Jio shyly looks away, looking totally awkward. He mutters that he was just sitting around by himself. But right then, Chaewon spots something missing and asks, "Where is your arm?" Jio explains he lost his arm during some sketchy lab tests a few days ago and it has not grown back yet. Chaewon just brushes it off, saying it is no big deal at all. He reaches out his hand and tells Jio to grab hold. Instantly, he triggers a crazy transformation. He morphs a glowing blade right onto Jio's missing limb. The boy gasps, asking what this is, and Chaewon just grins, saying it looks totally awesome. Johanna asks if he is messing with Jio again, but Chaewon brags that he gave him the coolest arm ever. Jio stares in awe at the shiny sword replacing his arm. He actually finds the whole thing super funny. Johanna just sighs, wondering if both of them have completely lost their minds. Chaewon holds out his fist, hyping up his buddy's great taste. Our guy just stares at the hand, totally confused, and asks what he is supposed to do. Chaewon explains that real bros fist bump to show total trust. Jio nervously copies him, and finally gets how true friends act. Snapping back to the present, he smiles, thinking Chaewon is the absolute best and happily follows him around. Yeji nods, saying she totally gets the whole vibe. She tells him how happy she is that he finally made a real friend. Then she pulls him over to eat, promising everything is perfectly fine. Today's menu is a sweet and sour rib stew. Jio blinks in shock, pointing at the plate and asking what on earth that is. The girl proudly calls it her secret recipe. She actually mixed strawberries and tangerines into the meat. Our hero admits he has never seen anything so weird in his life. He bravely shoves a huge bite into his mouth. Yeji eagerly asks how it tastes. Tears stream down his face as he chokes out that it is unbelievable. He forces himself to praise the unholy mix of strawberry meat and tangerine. Desperate, he turns to Twigum and asks if he wants a bite. The dog just gives him a pure look of utter disgust. Yeji giggles, saying she knows the puppy wants some, but he has to wait his turn. Twigum shakes his head hard, but Yeji just waves it off. She promises to cook this masterpiece way more often. Jio thanks her, dying inside. Suddenly, his phone starts buzzing like crazy. It is Chaewon calling. He is screaming through the phone, begging Jio for help. Panic kicks in as our guy asks what is wrong. His buddy drops a bomb. He was tracking the creepy guys from the lab. Jio tries to process this while Yeji gasps, pointing out that is the exact same place that locked him up. Chaewon desperately asks for backup. Without missing a beat, he shoots Jio the exact coordinates. Jio jumps up, declaring he has to go save his best friend from serious danger right now. He swears the food is delicious but says he just cannot finish it, despite all her hard work in the kitchen. The scene cuts to a creepy pitch-black metal warehouse. Jio sneaks in, looking around and wondering if he got the right address. The dead silence is super sketchy, especially since Chaewon sent him right here. Jio slowly creeps forward, scanning the shadows. He notices something insane. The whole place is coated in metal. The pipes, the walls, and even the floor are pure solid iron. This is literally the perfect battleground for Chaewon's powers. He stands there confused, wondering how someone that strong could ever lose here. He forces himself to stay sharp, swearing he will not get caught again. His mind races, picturing poor Chaewon tied up and terrified somewhere in the dark. Meanwhile, just a few feet away, a hand slams into the floor. In a split second, massive razor-sharp blades explode right out of the ground. The blades shoot straight at Jio, ready to slice him into pieces. He totally freaks out at the sudden ambush. He barely dodges a deadly strike at the last possible second. Gasping for air, he stares at the giant blade, trying to wrap his head around what the heck is going on. Then Chaewon casually thanks him for showing up. Jio is stunned, asking why he is attacking him when he literally just said he was captured. Chaewon just smirks coldly, stating that what he sees is exactly what he gets. The horrific truth hits Jio like a truck. Chaewon laughs, confirming the ultimate betrayal. He completely set him up. Gio is forced to block another deadly slash with his bare hands. He violently twists out of the way of another hit as Chaewon rushes in for the kill. He manages to slip past the strike again, but Chaewon spots a tiny opening and lands a brutal bone-crushing kick. The crazy impact sends our boy flying across the room. Gio violently coughs up blood from the insane force of the hit. He crashes hard just inches away from deadly metal spikes. Chaewon stares him down with a dead, icy glare. He smirks, saying he's actually really glad to see him today. He admits that staring at a skeleton for 7 straight years was starting to feel super weird, but he instantly knew it was Gio from the way he talked. He brings up all their laughs and deep chats, hitting Gio right in the feels with all those memories. And that is exactly why he faked the whole friendship. He finally drops the mask, introducing himself as a black market broker. He coldly reveals his true job, hunting down core mutants and selling them straight to the lab. And right now, Gio is his massive payday. Chaewon lightly taps the wall. Instantly, a massive steel blade rips through the air right behind Gio, forcing him to desperately roll out of the way to stay alive. But Sean is already in his face, raising his blade. Gio can tell right away. This guy is totally different. He is definitely not trying to catch him alive anymore. It looks like he actually wants to end him right here. Gio grabs a metal plate off the floor to block. He refuses to believe his buddy is really stabbing him in the back, and yells at him to snap out of it. He demands to know what the heck is going on. He begs to just talk things out. But Sean just taps the metal plate and coldly replies that there is nothing left to talk about. Boom! Sharp spikes shoot right out of the plate. Gio curses the guy under his breath, rolling backward to dodge, and screams, "Are you out of your mind?" He reminds him, the lab is run by total crooks and they cannot be trusted. While talking, Gio chunks 2 heavy pieces of metal at him. But Sean stays dead, silent, looking ice cold. He easily blocks the flying scraps, like it is nothing. Gio mutters to himself, scanning the room for a way out. He takes off running, knowing a head-on fight is a bad idea. Sean presses his hand to the floor and warns him that running is pointless. Huge spikes rip right through the floor. Sean reminds him this whole building is made of metal. There is 0 chance of making it out alive. As Gio flips away from another deadly strike, Gio wonders, did he plan this trap from the start? It is super clear now that his goal is to drag Gio right back to that awful lab. Gio screams at him, begging for a reason, yelling, "Do you really not care about sending your own friend back to hell?" But Sean flashes right behind his back and whispers, "I do not care." Gio clenches his teeth. He accepts it and warns that he is fighting back, winding up a punch. Sean quickly shifts his sword path to counter. A deep, nasty gash rips across Gio's body, but Sean is caught totally off guard. Bam! A split second later, a heavy fist smashes right into Sean's jaw. He stumbles back, completely stunned. That brutal slash did not even slow Gio down. Then it hits him. Years of being tortured as a lab rat turned Gio into a physical monster. His healing speed is just insane. The flesh patches itself up the exact second the blade passes through, giving him that tiny window to counterattack. Sean does not stop rushing in for another slice. He unleashes a wild storm of slashes, leaving Gio 0 room to breathe. His game plan is simple: keep hacking away. So Gio is too busy healing to fight back. Both of them are dead, locked faces, totally serious, as the brutal fight rages on. Flashback to the past. Gio is chained up in a cold holding cell. Clank, the heavy weights holding him down, snap open. A cold voice over the intercom announces they are testing the healing limits of his resurrection core. The heavy steel doors slide open and Sean is standing right there on the other side. Gio frowns, totally confused, and asks what in the world is going on. The head scientist chimes in. They want to see how fast Gio's body patches itself up after taking heavy damage from the sword core's power. They order Sean to strike with everything he has got. Gio yells, "Are you guys crazy?" He tells them to drop this sick joke. He turns his back, refusing to fight. But instantly the metal collar around his neck starts, zapping Sean with brutal electric shocks. Gio sees his friends screaming in agony. He begs him, "Do not hold back, just hit me," reminding him he will heal just fine. Sean grunts, calling him insane, refusing to hurt his own friend. Gio tries to play it cool, swearing it will not even sting, but Sean spits back that he would rather drop dead. Seeing no other way out, Gio flips the script, and he starts trash-talking. He calls Sean a weak, pathetic lapdog and tells him to just obey the scientists. Sean freezes up, hearing that. Gio doubles down, mocking him. "All you do is swing a sharp stick. Your power is absolute garbage, compared to everyone else here." That insult slices right through Sean's pride. Gio sneers, telling him to stop whining and just swing. Finally, at that exact moment, Sean summons a sharp blade right into his grip. He dashes forward with all his might and delivers a vicious clean slash right across Gio's chest. Blood splatters. Gio gasps from the heavy impact, thinking, Okay, maybe I went a little too hard on the trash talk. Sean does not stop. He keeps slashing, wildly screaming, "Does this still feel weak to you?" Gio bites his lip, swallowing the intense pain, and forces a grin, shouting that it feels like nothing. Sean ends the brutal combo with one massive deep strike. The intercom chimes in the lab's healing test is a total success. Sean just stands there frozen like a statue, gasping for air after letting out all that anger. Gio groans inwardly, thinking he would be in agony, but he suddenly realizes the pain is not nearly as bad as it should be. Sean mutters under his breath, "Just keep acting hurt. Those lab geeks will not suspect a thing, if you are soaked in blood." Gio's eyes widen. "Wait, did you just slice your own arm?" Sean gives a tiny nod. "Yeah, now shut your mouth." Before anyone caught on, the kid brushed it off. He told him not to sweat it since his body would patch itself up anyway. But Jaewon wasn't buying it. He knew exactly how slow that recovery process really was. He even called him out, saying he was holding back his life force just because he was scared of that healing power. He snapped at Jiho to wipe that pathetic look of pity off his face. "Real friends don't act like that," he claimed. Snapping back to the present, their brutal clash rages on. Jiho just couldn't wrap his head around this sudden betrayal. This guy used to be so solid. Digging his heels into the dirt, Jiho launches himself forward to land a massive strike on Jaewon. The guy doesn't even have a split second to blink. But then he realizes the incoming fist just froze in midair. His mind races. There was zero chance a hit like that could just stop even with those fresh wounds. But Jiho is still staring at him with those same eyes. A harsh slash tears across his chest, making him grind his teeth in pure frustration. He braces himself and tries to make a run for it. Jaewon just scoffs, calling the whole thing a joke. He mocks Jiho, telling him to just throw in the towel. He threatens to drag him right back to that facility, or maybe he'd just rat out Yeji and Taegu instead. He makes it crystal clear, his friends are first on the hit list. Jiho doesn't even flinch as the blade slices across his wrist. Crimson drops start hitting the floor. Jaewon smirks, noting that Jiho is finally making eye contact. He realizes just how much those friends actually mean to him. Tracking down high schoolers is child's play, he taunts. He drops a heavy warning: if Jiho runs, his crew will pay the ultimate price. Out of nowhere, Jiho forces his hand straight into the guy's mouth. Tearing into the back of Jaewon's throat, he snarls at him to never cross that line. He aggressively reminds him that Yeji and Taegu were his friends too. He declares he is willing to hear him out until the bitter end purely because they used to be tight. Jiho's heart starts hammering in his chest. His voice drops cold, warning that he couldn't care less about his excuses anymore. Panic sets in as Jaewon realizes his own mouth was torn, just so Jiho could absorb his vitality. The crimson energy rushes into Jiho, surging through his veins and entirely rebuilding his hand. Jaewon stares in pure shock at what just happened to that arm. Before he can even process it, the kid unloads a devastating strike, sending him flying backward. He coughs up a heavy red mist from the sheer impact. Even with his boosted durability, it feels like 3 of his ribs just completely shattered. Survival instinct kicks in. He knows one more hit like that means game over. But Jiho doesn't give him a second to breathe, landing another explosive punch that sends Jaewon soaring again. He violently smashes into a mountain of scrap metal. Only one terrifying thought races through his mind. This kid is moving way too fast. Stripped of any chance to defend, he takes another brutal hit from our protagonist. Jaewon is totally lost, wondering where this insane raw power is coming from. Did he really get this ridiculously strong just by absorbing his life force? Desperate, he summons a massive rain of blades, hoping to buy himself some distance. But the protagonist smoothly dodges every single one like it's nothing. Jaewon is left totally baffled. How can he predict where the attacks are coming from? Then it hits him. His opponent isn't predicting, he's just reacting on pure, terrifying instinct. His reflexes are completely off the charts. Healing isn't even his best trick anymore. His strength and agility are way beyond normal limits. Jaewon realizes that if this keeps up, he is entirely done for. Pushed into a corner, he slams his hands onto the ground. He starts absorbing all the surrounding metal, cursing under his breath that he actually had to resort to this move. He pushes past his absolute limit, sucking in iron particles even as it shreds his own veins and organs. The core of his weapon reacts wildly and like a massive explosion. Blades start erupting in every single direction. His body transforms into ground zero, surrounded by thousands of razor-sharp edges. He screams that no matter how crazy the kid's healing factor is, there is no way in hell he can dodge all of this. But Kim Jio literally doesn't care. Going all in, he charges forward with everything. He is aiming dead center for his opponent's gut. He lands a savage, gut-wrenching blow, totally ignoring the blades slicing into his own skin. Jaewon takes the full crushing force of the attack. He instantly coughs up a massive amount of red. The protagonist casually mentions that these little scratches don't even hurt. He could take being sliced up all day long without blinking. What actually hurts is seeing his old friend turn into such a pathetic mess. Without giving him a second to breathe, Gio unleashes a relentless barrage of punches. The sheer force shatters every single blade around them into pieces. Jaewon's face is taking an absolutely brutal beating. Our guy doesn't let up for a single second. He violently slams his former best friend's face straight into the concrete, telling him that betrayal is what truly cuts deep. The shockwave twists and bends all the metal around them. Jiho growls that this pain hurts way worse than those cheap parlor tricks. Knowing a friend of 10 long years actually wanted to drag him right back to hell. That's the part that is slowly eating him alive from the inside out. He demands to know why. He just can't wrap his head around it and screams to know exactly what those scumbags promised him. Barely able to speak, Jaewon forces his mouth open. He scoffs, asking what the point of talking even is right now. He admits he was secretly working for the facility, and that he fully intended to sell him out to the group. He bluntly states that after all this playing friends is impossible. Pure rage forces Jiho to grit his teeth. Hearing those words, he snaps, delivering another full-power punch straight across his face. Grabbing the guy tightly by the collar, he yells, asking what the hell he's talking about. He roars that he doesn't get to just decide they're done on his own. He demands a real actual reason, just to make some sense of this nightmare. He tells him he owes him at least one decent excuse, unless of course he never even saw him as a real friend in the first place. Suddenly, flashes of their past start rushing back. All those memories they shared. Flashbacks of the good old days flood in, goofing off playful brawls and celebrating their wins together. They truly shared some amazing memories. He mutters an apology, admitting he has no real excuse. But suddenly, swarms of soldiers storm the area. Jito freezes in sheer panic as hundreds of heavily armed troops charge straight at them. "Who's out there?" Jiho shouts, throwing his arm up to shield his eyes from the blinding spotlights. But it is too late. The tactical team already has their weapons drawn, completely boxing them in. A soldier grabs his radio, target acquired. "We found the mutants. Send backup." Jiho cannot believe his eyes. Back when they planned their escape, the strike team was ordered to shoot on sight. After all, he is the key to this whole operation. The squad pushes forward, firing lethal shots to capture him alive or dead. Panic grips Jiho's chest. He desperately needs a way out. Spotting a heavy metal pipe on the ground, he snatches it up. With everything he has, he hurls the pipe, nailing a guard dead in the chest. Using the distraction, he sprints the other way. But as he reaches the exit, he stops dead in his tracks. A fresh wave of guards is already waiting for him. They have flanked him from both sides, completely cutting off his escape. Absolute dread washes over Jiho. He is trapped like a rat. The squad leader Jinwook barks into his comms, confirming they have 2 mutants cornered. He orders his men to hold the line. Flashing headquarters, he commands Team A to seal the exits and signals Team B to push forward. Jiho swallows hard. If they drag him down now, it is game over. He will be thrown right back to that hellish lab. Meanwhile, Jinwook raises his hand, signaling his men to ready their weapons. Open fire, but before a single shot rings out, a mysterious hand reaches in. A girl casually snatches the radio right out of the commander's grip. "Mutant Task Force," she declares coldly. "I am taking over this operation." The tactical team exchanges confused looks. Ignoring them, she orders everyone to stand down and calmly walks over to our terrified hero. Staring him down, she asks if he is Jiho. Her tone softens a bit. "Relax, kid. I am actually here to bail you out." She introduces herself as Yeji's older sister. Jiho takes a nervous step back. Can he really trust this stranger in the middle of a raid? Heon scans the room, declaring the area secure. She turns to the squad leader, asking if his team responded to the recent outbreak. "Lock this place down from civilians," she orders. Jinwook snaps back, furious that her special unit is completely ignoring basic protocol. His men secured this scene first. Does she not respect the chain of command? But a government agent steps up, explaining this is a special case. They have a direct warrant for Lee Chae-won. Jinwook scoffs. "You got it twisted. I don't care about that guy." He points a stern finger at the kid in the black shirt. Scanners show Jiho is an unregistered mutant. Technically, they are just civilians, which puts him right under local jurisdiction. On his command, the entire squad aims their rifles right at Jiho's head. Jinwook orders an immediate arrest of the unregistered target. Jito braces for the worst, but Heon simply snaps her fingers. Glowing pink cracks spiderweb across the guards' assault rifles and shatter into pieces instantly. The entire strike team drops their jaws in shock. Jiho quickly realizes this is team leader Heon's insane mutant ability. She sighs, telling the stubborn officer he really does not grasp the situation. Furious, Jinwook yells that she just attacked friendly forces. Unfazed, she snaps her fingers one more time. Instantly, Jinwook drops to his knees in agonizing pain. The commander screams as Heon steps over him. She coldly states this is a classified investigation tied to the Hermes lab. The name alone makes Jinwook freeze in sheer terror. She orders him to open his eyes and look at the massive damage around them. The horrified commander finally puts 2 and 2 together regarding these kids. They are the high-risk test subjects from Hermes. Messing with them is a straight-up death wish. Trembling, he tells his squad to stand down and let her take over. The agents quickly tackle Chaewon, pinning him to the floor. Jiho nervously asks where they are dragging his friend. The agent bluntly replies that Chaewon is a wanted fugitive. They need to lock him up before asking questions. Our boy starts sweating, wondering if he accidentally committed a massive crime too. But the agent simply states they need Kim Jiho for an official witness statement. Plus, team leader Haeyeon requested a private chat with him, so he better play nice. Jiho gulps. The last thing he wants is to be trapped in a room with this terrifying woman. Cut to the police station. Haeyeon is staring at him with a creepy, excited smile. Deeply unnerved, he awkwardly asks why she is looking at him like a piece of meat. Chuckling, she tells the kid to loosen up. She is just here to ask a few simple questions. It turns out, her whole mission is hunting down the Hermes lab. Her sister Yeji mentioned that Jiho was locked up there and somehow pulled off an escape 3 years ago. Because of that, he is still a massive target on their radar. She drops a heavy truth bomb. All of his friends from the lab were recaptured. Honestly, it is highly likely that they never actually escaped in the first place. Hermes probably just opened the doors and let them walk out, playing a sick game of cat and mouse to completely shatter their hope. And after dragging them back into the dark, the scientists did not just toss them into cages. They weaponized their deepest weaknesses, twisting their minds into total absolute submission. Or they lured them in with promises of dirty work. Jaewon wonders if Jaewon fell for that trap too, but she reveals he hasn't said a single word. Everything she knows comes straight from the files. The secretary steps in, announcing the witness turned herself in. Jaewon squints at her, trying to place her face. Chaeyeon introduces herself, saying they already cleared things up outside. Hyun crouches down, keeping her tone soft, promising she won't push too hard. She just needs to know what her brother saw and why Chaeyeon is so terrified to talk. Breaking down, the girl admits it's all her fault. Her brother was never like this. She admits she was terrified of losing him if she spoke up. Hyun looks her in the eye, warning her that staying quiet will only make things worse. Her brother will end up taking the fall all by himself. The girl wipes her tears and slowly nods. She knows she can't let him carry that burden alone. She reveals her brother came back 3 years ago. The second he broke out of the lab, he rushed straight home to see her and their parents. But the devastating truth was, their parents had already passed away. She was left all alone, dealing with a severe disability and complications from a tragic accident. She couldn't even take care of herself, and Jaewon was completely crushed seeing her like that. Pulling her into a tight hug, he made a promise to protect her no matter what it took. Jaewon worked day and night, bleeding himself dry, but without a legal identity, money was incredibly tight. Every single penny he made went straight to her medical bills. Then one day, the lab tracked him down. The girl screamed for her brother. Jaewon yelled at them to let her go, threatening to kill them all. But one of the men just smirked, saying it had been a while. The guy calmly explained they were not there to drag him back. They were done keeping him locked up. Instead, they offered him a brand new identity, a solid job, and serious cash. In exchange, he just had to do some dirty work for them. The lab paid for absolutely everything, with one strict rule: never breathe a word about the job. He kept his mouth shut, but she is drowning in guilt, knowing he ruined his life and committed crimes just for her. Sobbing, she keeps apologizing, saying it is all her fault. Jaewon steps in, trying to comfort her, gently saying her brother did what he had to do to save her. The guards then escort the crying girl out of the room. Hyun sighs, saying that is the whole story, but she wants to make one thing crystal clear. Even if he did it all to save his sister, the hard truth remains he still tried to sell his best friend out to the lab. If things had gone his way, Jaewon would be locked up in a cage right now. The protagonist nods in silence. Hyun tells him Jaewon will definitely face jail time for his crimes. She hands over a phone, asking Jaewon if he wants to make one final call before they lock him up. Jaewon stares at the device, completely caught off guard. Finally, he grabs it and makes the call. He listens to the dial tone ring, and the second it connects, he firmly says he knows Jaewon is on the other end. He tells him he heard the whole tragic story. He knows exactly what happened after the lab and fully understands why he stabbed him in the back. He just wants to know one thing: why the hell didn't he just tell him from the start? On the other side of the line, Jaewon lets out a heavy sigh, completely lost for words. That dead silence makes Jaewon's blood boil. He snaps, demanding the guy open his mouth and say something. He calls Jaewon a filthy traitor, screaming that his best friend should have at least tried to make a pathetic excuse. Hiding behind silence, just out of pure shame, is cowardly. He literally tried to sell out his own brother and drag him straight to hell. Jaewon calls him absolute trash, telling him to spend the rest of his miserable life rotting in endless regret. Jaewon just keeps his head down in total silence. But deep inside he knows this brutal truth is exactly what he needed to hear. He gets ready to hang up, but then Jaewon's tone shifts. He tells him the cops will take good care of him behind bars. He makes it clear that while Jaewon might be garbage, his sister is completely innocent. That is exactly why he needs to pay for his crimes. Get out of there someday and grab another burger with him. because that last one was actually pretty damn good. Jaewon slowly lowers the phone, tears welling up as he remembers all the crazy fights they survived together in the past. He lets out a shaky breath and softly thanks his friend. Jiwon hangs up the receiver. Hyun looks over, asking if getting that off his chest was enough. She smirks, admitting he is way more forgiving than she ever expected. If it were her, the payback would be 10 times deadlier. The protagonist stares ahead, saying he truly believed his friends had finally escaped that hellish lab. He thought living a tough but free life would bring them happiness, but he was dead wrong. Those sick bastards still have his friends locked away in cages. His eyes burn with determination as he asks her to help him save everyone. Hyun smiles warmly, tossing the phone onto the table. She agrees to team up, but gently asks if he is really going to be alright. Jiwon brushes it off, saying he is no longer just some weak, helpless kid. He swears on his life to save his friends and burn that lab to the ground. Later that night, back at her apartment, Hyun comes running toward her younger sister. She tackles the girl in a massive bear hug, whining about how much she missed her after not seeing her. Haeji groans, telling her to knock it off, but Hyun just thinks her grumpy little sister is the absolute cutest. The girl pushes her away, complaining that she should have taken a shower first. Jiwon watches the whole scene play out, totally shocked by how completely different Hyun acts at home. He used to think she was this terrifying cold agent, but around Haeji, she is the biggest softie in the world. Catching him, staring, Haeji blinks and asks if Jiwon is okay. She heard about the massive drama with his buddy Chaewon. Jio just rubs the back of his neck, looking super awkward, but he brushes it off, saying everything is totally fine now, because her older sister took care of the whole mess. Haeji breathes a sigh of relief and asks if he wants to try a bite of the food he missed out on earlier. Hain thinks this whole conversation is super weird, and her little sister points out that she hasn't eaten anything yet either. She pushes her sister to try this crazy sweet and sour recipe she texted her about earlier. Hain just looks completely. If this is some kind of sick joke, she demands to know what kind of jerk told her to cook something like this. The girl innocently replies that an AI generated the cooking time and the step-by-step recipe. Hain is absolutely furious, wondering if this stupid machine is straight up trolling humanity. The two of them start bickering back and forth over whether this radioactive mess is even safe to eat. Haeji sheepishly admits she tweaked the recipe just a little bit. She explains I mentioned that vitamin C is great for fighting off exhaustion, and she just wanted to see her big sister full of energy. That hits Hyan right in the feels. She is totally bracing herself for a massive stomachache, but figures you cannot knock it until you try it. She scoops up a bite and shoves it in her mouth, instantly calling it a masterpiece before she even swallows. Haeji gets super excited, asking if it actually tastes good. Hain talks with her mouth full, saying it is basically a flavor explosion of pure goodness. The younger sister cheers, thrilled that her crazy experiment was a huge success. And surprisingly, Jio chimes in, totally agreeing that the food is out of this world. He swears it is so amazing he could literally eat it for every single meal. He says the meat and fruit are basically throwing a party on his taste buds, leaving Hyan seriously wondering if the guy's sense of taste is completely broken. After they scrape their plates clean, Hyan gets down to business, saying they need to set some things straight right now. Their number one priority is figuring out where Jio is going to sleep. She makes it crystal clear that she only let him stay because it was a life or death emergency. Having a fully grown guy living under the same roof as two girls is just asking for trouble, and it sets a terrible example for her little sister. Haeji quickly jumps in, reminding her that he has a literal target on his back and asking where else he is supposed to hide. Hain admits she thought about tossing him into the main headquarters, but keeping him totally off the radar is their safest bet right now. She grabs her phone and makes a quick call, trying to see if there are any empty beds over at the official dorms, but the voice on the other end shuts her down instantly. She hangs up, sighing that the place is packed to the brim, and it is going to take a while to open up a spot. Since they have zero other options, she finally agrees to let him crash at their place for the time being. Haeji practically throws a party hearing this. Not skipping a beat, Hain grabs a pen and starts aggressively scribbling on a piece of paper. Jio just watches her, looking completely lost. She slams the paper down right in front of him. She looks him dead in the eye and declares that in exchange for a roof, he is officially confined to the living room, and he is absolutely 100% banned from setting foot inside her little sister's bedroom, not even for a split second. She needs to set some serious boundaries, and this contract is his absolute rulebook. She gives him a death glare, warning him that breaking even one rule will bring down a world of pain he cannot even begin to imagine. And that goes double if she ever catches him snooping around Haeji's room. He will find out the hard way exactly what she does to creeps who cross the line. Jio quickly nods, agreeing to all her demands, while Haeji just laughs, teasing her big sister for being way too intense with the house rules. Moving on, Hain shuts down the roommate talk and drags Jio outside for a serious chat. Our guy looks confused and asks where exactly they are going. She crosses her arms, explaining she needs to see just how crazy his mutant powers actually are. Since the sun is barely up and the streets are dead empty, this empty spot is the perfect training ground. She reminds him that if he really wants to crush that evil lab, she needs to know exactly what kind of firepower he is working with. Gio looks down at his hands, explaining that his body has this insane ability to heal from any injury, but it all comes down to drinking blood. If he gets enough in his system, he is practically immortal, but the second he runs dry, his stats drop straight to zero. She narrows her eyes, totally convinced that hyper-healing is not his only trick. She watched him brawl earlier and saw the kind of bone-crushing damage that only a total powerhouse could pull off. Our boy just shrugs, admitting he has always been naturally stacked. He figures that messed up heart they gave him basically cranked his physical stats way beyond a normal human. She fires back that the total wreckage he left behind was way more than just heavy lifting. Gio opens up, explaining that he was never actually at full power. While locked in that lab, he only unlocked his true potential after he broke out, realizing his physical strength spikes the more blood he absorbs. Han nods, slowly putting it all together. So blood is basically his healing potion and his rocket fuel all rolled into one. She spins around and tosses a grip strength tester right at him. She barks an order, telling him to crush that thing with every ounce of power he has. Gio stares at the gadget, flashing back to his super similar device he saw back in his nightmare lab days. He grips the tester, looking a little clumsy, not entirely sure how it works. But he channels every drop of energy into his arm, forcing a massive rush of blood straight down to his hand. He pours every ounce of his strength into the grip. The raw pressure is just too much, snapping the machine right in half. Hyen just stands there totally stunned. She stammers that the grip tester was built to handle over 500 kilograms of force. It hits her. This kid is literally stronger than a full-grown gorilla. Gio sheepishly apologizes for wrecking her gear. He swears he had no clue he was packing that kind of power, blaming it on the blood he drank earlier. She realizes he is way more dangerous than she originally thought. Suddenly, a bunch of rocks float up into the air. Our guy stares at the floating debris, totally confused before the rocks shoot straight at him. Gio manages to dodge the surprise attack with crazy reflexes, but one rogue stone catches him off guard and smacks him right in the head. She smirks, saying she controlled their path completely at random. Dodging even one or two was already impressive. With skills like that, he is definitely a high-tier mutant. Gio rubs his head, noting the rocks felt like they were alive, and asks if her mutation is some kind of superpower. Hyen gives him a weird look. She tells him to stop acting like a comic book geek, and reminds him that mutations are still ground. Her specific ability is a top-secret government file, so her lips are sealed. But she warns him to keep his own cards close to his chest, and never let anyone find out what he really is. Honestly, he should know the risks better than anyone. Gio nods, knowing she is dead right. Ever since getting a human body back, he has been tossing his powers around without a second thought. Just then, Yeji pops up and grabs their attention. She happily holds up some drinks she brought for the two of them. Gio's eyes light up with pure joy. Yeji smiles, finding it so cute when he acts like a normal teenager. Then she makes up a quick excuse about a work call and steps away. Gio takes a big sip of his soda and Yeji asks how it is. His face lights up, saying it is amazing. He says the sugar rush is so intense it literally lights up his brain like flipping a switch inside his head. And Yeji breathes a sigh of relief that he likes it. But then a familiar taste hits Gio. He flashes back to when Chiwon gave him a burger and realizes he drank this exact same soda back then. Yeji notices his expression drop and asks if everything is okay. Gio quickly brushes it off, saying it is no big deal, but she is clearly confused by his sudden mood swing. He softly explains that he just thought about an old friend and his whole crew. They used to be incredibly close. She gently points out how much he clearly loves and misses them. Gio smiles, sadly, saying they were basically his family. Living inside that twisted lab was a pure nightmare, but the rare moments with his friends made it bearable. They were the only reason he could block out the endless pain and suffering. They kept his humanity intact through all that hell. His only dream was for all of them to break out together and finally be happy. But in the end, he was the only one who made it out alive. His friends are still trapped in that facility, with zero way out. That is exactly why he is risking it all to go back and save them, even if it means fighting the entire evil organization and burning the lab to the ground. Yeji looks at him totally moved. She tells him that she might not have any powers, and she doesn't know how much help she can be, but she is all in. Just say the word and she will do whatever it takes. Gio is caught off guard by her loyalty, but a genuine smile breaks across his face. Fast forward a few days and we cut to a bustling high school. Groups of girls are already whispering about the cute transfer student planning to ask for his socials. Gio is standing there completely mind blown, wondering if this is actually happening. His heart is pounding out of his chest at the thought of acting like a normal kid. He is barely processing reality right now. Heian had promised him that transferring here was the key to finding his friend from the lab. Gio takes a deep, shaky breath, trying to ground himself. He just stands there frozen, sick to his stomach with crazy nerves. Meanwhile, the local girls are totally swooning over his brooding vibe. The guys are sizing him up, wondering if he is any good at sports. Gio feels 100 pairs of eyes burning into his soul. Flashback to earlier, Heian had hyped up his very first official mission, spending days planning every single detail. She then tossed him a uniform from a bag. Yeji instantly recognized the logo. It was her high school. She declared that his first huge mission was to enroll as a student alongside Yeji. Back in the present, a loud bell rings across the courtyard. A massive wave of students rushes past him, chattering about a million different things. The poor guy feels totally suffocated by the insane crowd. Heian had warned him that his social skills were garbage and he needed to learn how to blend in if he wanted to investigate properly. He has to play the part of an average teen. Gio constantly reminds himself that no one can ever suspect what he really is. But the moment he steps in front of the class, he completely freezes, having absolutely zero clue how to act. They honestly think they've already figured out his secret. Just then, Taegu slams his hand on the desk, telling everyone to quiet down. He warns the crowd that they're being way too loud and scaring the new kid. Taegu covers for him, saying Gio transferred from a nearby town and doesn't even use social media. He hypes him up, claiming the guy quit video games to focus entirely on being a star athlete. Gio lets out a huge sigh of relief seeing Taegu step up. The big guy straight up lies to the class, calling them childhood bros. He tells everyone they have a lot of catching up to do. Gio softly thanks him for having his back. Taegu whispers that Heiji already explained everything, and the goal is to make him look totally normal. He proudly promises that he knows this school like the back of his hand. He tells Gio he can ask him literally anything but maybe later. Cut to class where Taegu is completely blanking on a question. The teacher roasts him, reminding the class that finals are right around the corner. The teacher asks what bacteria caused the Black Death. Taegu whines about being underestimated, then confidently guesses that it was obviously COVID. Smack, the teacher whacks him on the head, calling it a terrible answer. Gio can't help but chuckle at the scene. Hearing this, the teacher spins around and challenges the new kid to answer instead. Taegu panics, thinking it's unfair to put Gio on the spot like that. But without missing a beat, the boy answers Yersinia pestis. The whole room goes dead, silent in shock. The teacher decides to test him again, this time asking about the Indian caste system, and Gio nails it instantly. Everyone's jaws drop as he flawlessly answers question after question. Even the teacher has to admit that was amazing. He says he's never seen a student so sharp and actually tells the class to give the new kid a round of applause. Gio blushes, super embarrassed by all the attention. Meanwhile, Taegu is scratching his head, convinced his new bro was a total airhead. Later on, he corners Gio, asking how he knew all that nerdy stuff. He also wants to know what those weird words even meant. Gio calmly replies that he actually has no idea. Taegu's brain short-circuits. He asks how you can ace a pop quiz without knowing what it means. Gio casually explains that back at the lab, the scientists used to let him borrow their textbooks. He says he just read the same books over and over again. Honestly, just daydreaming about making friends out here kept him happy while reading. Hearing this, Taegu literally bursts into tears, realizing this poor kid just memorized entire encyclopedias out of pure boredom. He can't even imagine how tough that life was. Luckily, next period is gym class. Taegu wraps an arm around him, promising to show him something way more fun than reading old books. He struts right to the middle of the court. The gym coach blows his whistle, announcing that today is all about dodgeball. Since two classes are sharing the gym, they split right down the middle into two teams. Taegu instantly trash talks class 1, calling them losers, and the kids from class 2 immediately start shouting back. Gio looks super confused and asks what dodgeball even is. Taegu breaks it down: simply just throw the ball from your side and dodge anything coming at you. He tells Gio to relax, just stay behind him and watch a master at work. Bam! 1 second later, a ball smashes right into Taegu's face. The entire opposing class absolutely loses their minds laughing. Taegu tries to play it cool, rubbing his red face and claiming it just tickled. But there's no time to worry about him now. Flash forward and Gio is literally the last guy standing on his team. Ball games aren't exactly his thing, but the rules are easy enough: just throw and don't get hit. The real problem, he has to use less than half his actual strength. He desperately tries to remind himself to hold back. Gio keeps repeating this over and over in his head. He seriously has no idea how to only use 50% of his power. An opponent winds up for a throw, yelling at him to watch out. The guy rockets the ball with everything he's got. To Gio, the ball looks like it's moving in slow motion. He casually tilts his head, dodging it effortlessly, still stressed about his strength control. He's literally whispering math to himself while dodging ball after ball. The entire gym is stunned, whispering that he moves like a total pro. The new kid is insane, especially since he's dodging every single hit without even moving his feet. He's making the whole other class look like a joke. From the sidelines, Taegu hisses at him to stop showing off. This is totally blowing his cover. Gio turns around, confused, asking if he's doing something wrong. Right in that split second of distraction, wham, a ball nails him in the face. The guy who threw it falls to his knees completely drained. The whole class panics, thinking that hit was way too brutal. Gio's nose starts bleeding instantly, but he just laughs it off totally unfazed, promising everyone he's fine. In the bleachers, a friend playfully nudges Heiji. She totally swoons over how cute and athletic the new transfer student is. Heiji just nods with a smile, glad to see him fitting in so well. The school day wraps up. Walking home, Taegu asks how his first day was. He sighs, admitting that keeping Gio's crazy secret is stressful, but he reminds his new bro to ask him for literally anything he needs. Gio looks around, realizing that for the first time in his life, no one is trying to control him. People here just say whatever's on their mind. Even in the lunchroom, you can just buy whatever you want if you have the cash. He smiles, admitting that this whole normal life thing is still super weird, but honestly, he had an absolute blast. He knows he'd never get to experience this without those two around, and he's super grateful. But Taegu quickly cuts the emotional tension right there. He tells Jiho to stop being such a softie, since he still has a whole lot to teach him. Meanwhile, in another part of town, some thugs roll up asking for updates on the lab. They have no idea the goods got hijacked. One guy mentions they just need to play nice for a few more days. But suddenly, one of the thugs tells the rest to hold up. He points at a random guy and asks who he is. The young dude sighs, saying they showed up way too early, and he didn't even get to finish his meal. The gang leader barks at his men to kick the beggar out. The kid struggles against them, warning them that he's not done with his soup yet. The boss just stares, wondering what's wrong with this freak. The young man makes a weird comment about the thug's face. He mutters about why it's so hard to see, then slides off his sunglasses, saying, "That's way better." Without warning, the gangster throws a solid punch right at his face. He warns the kid to get lost while he's still playing nice or he'll lose his life. But in reality, the thug just shattered his own hand from the impact. The kid tells him to stop crying like a baby and calmly stands right back up. He smirks, saying he knows they just brought cash from the lab, and asks how much they've got. Right at that moment, the rock heart activates. Do-young Kang warns the thugs he'll be taking all the cash as his payment. Meanwhile, during a sunny school soccer game, Jiho thinks about how it's already been a full week since classes started. The very first mission the leader gave him was to act totally normal and blend into an ordinary life. At first, he was terrified of getting exposed. It made him act super awkward, completely ruining the fun for him. But after hanging out, studying, and eating with guys his own age, it hits him. School is actually way more fun than he ever thought. Taegu passes him the ball. Jiho just smiles, finding it crazy that he can finally run and play this freely again. He traps the ball on his chest, lines up his shot, and gets ready to kick. But at the last second, he trips over his own feet and falls flat on his back. The other kids burst out laughing, teasing him for being so bad. For once, Jiho actually looks like a normal teenager. He's so happy, he completely forgets about his life on the run. And it's all thanks to Heiji and Taegu. On their walk home, he points out how incredible the meat skewers smell. That mouth-watering scent hits him right in the face. He keeps walking and talking about it. Taegu jokes that if he keeps drooling, he's going to eat it all himself. Jiho says he wants to share a bite with the puppy, but the girl reminds him that dogs can't handle spicy food. Meanwhile, Kang is groaning about starving to death, since he burned through way too much power. There were a lot more thugs than he bargained for. After fighting literally all night, he barely has the energy to walk. He desperately needs food. Just then, he spots a flower bed right in front of him. He reaches out to grab a handful. His power can convert it straight into energy, but Jiho suddenly pops up and grabs his hand, yelling at him to stop eating that. The guy tries to defend himself, but Jiho cuts him off. He warns him he already tried that before and it ended really badly. It's way better to stick to regular plants. Heiji walks up and tells him he shouldn't be eating that dirt either. Kang gets flustered, swearing there's a huge misunderstanding and he's not homeless. But then he realizes that's exactly what he looks like right now. Suddenly, a super strong, delicious smell hits his nose. He practically begs for a bite of the skewer. Jiho frowns, thinking about how he hasn't even taken a single bite yet. Look at this guy. It's literally like looking at himself in the past. Channeling his inner Heiji, he decides to show a little mercy. Kang eagerly opens his mouth wide. He shamelessly unhinges his jaw and inhales the entire skewer right in front of him. A second later, he lets out a massive burp and sighs, saying he finally feels alive again. He thanks them for the food while Jiho complains bitterly about his stolen snack. The young guy promises to pay them back. He suddenly pulls out a heavy bag stuffed with cash and holds it up. Everyone just stares, wondering if he really is a homeless guy after all. Kang hands the bag over, saying that should easily cover it. Jiho reaches out to grab the cash, but it vanishes in the blink of an eye. Two thieves zoom by on a motorcycle, snatching the bag right out of his hands. They speed off, stealing everything in their path. Heiji panics, yelling that she's calling the cops, but suddenly looks around wondering where the guys went. All three of them are already sprinting down the street, screaming they won't let them take the money. The thieves look back and see they're being chased, laughing their heads off, confident that no guy on foot can outrun a speeding bike. Jiho decides to hunt these guys down, all by himself. Taegu thinks fast. He knows if he uses his powers right here, it's going to be a huge problem with all these witnesses. So he grabs onto Kang's pants to hold him back. Kang stops, completely confused by what this kid is trying to do. Up ahead, Jiho notices the street is dead empty with no one watching. He takes his shot and activates his mutant heart. He bursts forward, matching the bike's speed, for a few seconds, but then cranks it into overdrive. The thief on the back quickly glances over his shoulder. The biker looks back, absolutely stunned. Our boy is sprinting like an absolute madman, closing the gap on the motorcycle. How is a guy on foot keeping up with them? Right then, Gio launches himself into the air to grab the bag, but the thieves barely swerve out of the way. Gio hits the pavement and rolls backward. The snatchers wonder who this lunatic is and if they finally shook him off. But panic sets in quickly. The gap isn't widening at all. This dude is definitely not human. His buddy desperately scans the area for a way out. He spots a massive pile of bricks stacked up ahead. They smash right into the stack, trying to bring it down on the kid. The pile wobbles and tons of heavy bricks start raining down. Caught off guard by the sudden trap, our hero vanishes as a huge cloud of dust explodes across the street. The thief flips him, the bird yelling out a sarcastic goodbye. But right out of the thick smoke, our boy stands back up. Rubbing his head with a groan, he mutters that he has to catch them no matter what. Meanwhile, the bystanders just stare at him in pure shock. A crowd quickly circles around him. Cut to somewhere else, the robbers finally park their bike in an alley. They brag about having a clear getaway and scoring a massive payout this time. But out of nowhere, Kang blocks their path. He straight up clobbers the guys. Taken totally by surprise, the two goons lose their balance and wipe out, smashing face first into the dirt. Kang asks why they are running for their lives. He smirks, saying that as long as his feet touch the earth, he can feel absolutely everything. The nearby crowd starts whispering, wondering if he is a mutant. Kang warns them that the cash is not theirs to keep, so they better cough it up right now. The thief tells him to cut the crap. He threatens that mutant or not, he definitely does not have a stomach made of steel. Right at that moment, the rest of the gang starts revving their engines. The snatcher laughs, bragging that this alley is their turf. He says the timing is perfect and they will just sell Kang off to the black market too. Kang calmly asks if that is what they really want. He presses his hand to the pavement and notes that there are actually a few more guys lurking around. His stone heart activates and the intense vibrations of the entire earth channel straight into his palm. The bikers charge at him, but all of a sudden the ground starts shaking with crazy power. It feels like a massive earthquake. The gang panics as solid rock pillars suddenly erupt right out of the concrete. Kang warns that he is going to bury this whole hideout with everyone inside right after he seals the massive crack. That just tore the street open. Meanwhile, back at the station, the secretary hands a file over to the team leader. She says these are the target details she asked for earlier. Yen points out that this is the construction company suspected of having shady ties to the lab. She notices the boss looks pretty young and thinks she needs to call Gio in. The secretary asks if the guy in the file is related to the kid. Yen replies that no one knows for sure. It could very well be the missing friend Gio has been looking for, or maybe not. But it is a solid lead and her gut tells her this is definitely his guy. Back at the office, Gio bursts through the door, demanding to know if she found his buddy. She tells him to take a breath, because nothing is completely confirmed yet. She compliments how sharp he looks in his uniform and asks how school is going. Gio says everything is going great, but being in class just makes him miss his friends even more. He quickly changes the subject, begging to know what she meant about finding his friend. She hands him the papers, explaining they are investigating a target who is the exact same age as him. She tells him to take a look and see if this is the buddy he has been searching for. Gio grabs the file and stares hard at the guy in the picture. Then it hits him. He says this is the homeless guy he ran into earlier. He remembers this dude eating his entire chicken skewer right in front of him. The girl explains his name is Dongwoo Kang. Gio admits he does not recognize the face at all. He says his eyesight was ruined back in the lab and never fully healed. But he swears he would know his best friend in a heartbeat if they met face to face. He states he has never seen this name or face in his life. Until a crazy thought crosses his mind. He tells her to hold on a second. He points out that turning into stone is a super rare ability. That power belonged to Do-young Kang, his old friend from the facility. With a power like that, it has to be him. Gio asks if the guy in the photo actually uses rock-based abilities. She nods, confirming the power is literally called Stone Heart. Gio frantically asks where this guy is right now. Yen explains that he is tied to the lab, just like Sean. She says that is probably how he ended up becoming the boss of a massive multi-million-dollar construction empire. It is all circumstantial evidence right now, but she is totally certain about the connection. Gio mutters that he is wrapped up in the exact same mess. Sean Han asks if he is ready for the mission she set up. Gio just flashes a confident smirk. He tells her she can bet her life on it. She explains their target is a place called Odin Construction. Doohee and Kang runs the whole show. She tells Gio his job is to go undercover as a day laborer right where Kang is working. The real goal, track down his buddy inside and figure out exactly what kind of shady deal he made with the lab. But she gives him a harsh reality check. His friends are not the same anymore. Do-young is way deeper into the lab's mess than Chuan ever was. She warns him to watch his back and trust no one. Honestly, the best case scenario is talking Do-young into switching sides. If they pull that off, the lab, hiding and abusing all those test subjects will finally lose its grip. Then they can expose the ugly truth to the world. Cut to the construction site where Taegu flinches while doing some heavy lifting. He groans, realizing he promised to help Gio find his friend but never signed up for this backbreaking manual labor. Gio asks if he is doing okay. He tells Taegu he appreciates the backup, but he does not have to work himself to death. Taegu just waves him off, acting tough and claiming it is a piece of cake. He tells Gio to chill out. He reminds Gio they are sneaking into his buddy's company and says, just trust me on this. Then Taegu asks where exactly they are supposed to find the guy. Gio casually admits he has no clue. Taegu totally panics. He realizes the grand plan is literally just wandering around this massive site all day hoping they bump into the target. Gio blinks, innocently asking if there is a problem with that strategy. Taegu snaps that they will never find him like this. They need to ask the real workers. He says they just have to butter up the older guys. Right on cue, a pissed-off site manager crushes a can in his hand. He growls about giving these lazy kids a job, complaining they are already slacking off. The boss yells that everyone is busting their backs out here. He rants that kids these days just turn tail and run the second things get a little hard. He snaps at Gio to stop jogging around with heavy stuff so he does not trip and break his neck. The manager barks an order: move all the gear in 1 hour or pack up and leave. The boys just nod along. The older guys walk off grumbling about hiring teenagers. Taegu groans that these guys did not even give them a single second to ask questions. They realize they have to finish the job before trying to chat anyone up. They stare at the giant mountain of rubble, wondering how to move it in 60 minutes. Gio points out that the boss got mad at him for running with a load, so he comes up with a wild plan. He just stacks a massive amount of weight onto his back, all at once planning to walk slowly. Taegu freaks out. He screams that it is around 350 pounds, way more than any normal human can lift. The older workers stop and stare in pure shock. They watch in awe as Gio moves the insane load like it is nothing. Gio just casually says he is power walking. Taegu chases right after him, begging him to slow down. The crew is totally baffled by his superhuman strength. A moment later, Taegu announces they cleared out every single bag of cement. They crushed the entire task in under an hour, and Taegu asks what is next. One of the old guys laughs, saying these kids have crazy energy. He points out a second pile of cement on the far side. But before the guy can even finish talking, Gio is already sprinting over there. He zips past the whole crew hauling bags like they are feathers. The men just stand there, jaws on the floor. Within minutes, the boys announce the second batch is done. Gio politely asks what else needs doing. He dives right into mixing cement and handing out tools to the crew. The boys even haul all the heavy lumber on their own. The older guys completely change their tune. They admit that unlike most teenagers these days, these two are absolute machines. One guy jokes that if every kid worked this hard, they would hire them in a heartbeat. But suddenly, a massive power cable snaps and starts whipping through the air. The live wire thrashes around like a deadly snake. One of the guys screams for everyone to get back. Mr. Song is seconds away from taking a lethal hit, but Gio throws himself right in the line of fire. Song screams his name in panic. Gio takes the raw voltage straight to the body like it is nothing. Finally, someone manages to kill the power grid. Gio just sits in the dirt as the terrified crew rushes over to check on him. Gio brushes it off, saying he is totally fine, and did not even feel the shock. Internally, he sighs, realizing that was way too close. Luckily, the voltage was low enough that it did not leave any burn marks. But he almost exposed his mutant powers to the whole site. Relieved, the workers tell him they owe him big time. After that crazy stunt, the crew treats Gio like total royalty. Gio is just glad things worked out, but he realizes this manual labor stuff is way more dangerous than he thought. Now he gets why these guys are always so stressed out, even if they are solid dudes deep down. Taegu whispers that the crew definitely respects them, enough now to finally answer some questions. But he knows asking straight up would look sketchy, so he plays it cool. Taegu casually asks if there is a specific spot. Gio looks around for guys their age, but the crew is just confused. They ask how old Taegu actually is, swearing the dude looks at least 30. Taegu growls, "I'm 17." Gio jumps in, explaining they're looking for a crew with guys in their 20s. The workers mention a company called Odin Construction. They've got plenty of young guys. Gio immediately asks where to find them. The guys warn them. That place is completely brutal, but the pay, it's crazy good. Why? Because the work will literally break your back. Taegu demands to know where this crew hangs out. Just then, a worker points a finger. "Speak of the devil," he says. A white van rolls up right next to them and a guy steps out. Taegu stares at the guy's outfit in total disbelief. Since when can a construction worker afford luxury designer gear? This dude is dripping in expensive brands from head to toe. Taegu is dying to know exactly how much cash this guy is pulling in. Taegu's loud reaction instantly draws attention. Right on cue, Doyoung steps out of the car. He pulls off his shades, his eyes locking onto a familiar face. He points at Gio. "Hey, you're the kid who gave me that chicken skewer." Yep, these two had already crossed paths, but Gio remembers their dark past at the lab. He knows this guy better than anyone else alive. It's been over 10 years. Gio plays along, agreeing they've met before. Do-young chuckles, calling it a super small world, but Gio drops the act. This is no coincidence. He knew exactly where Do-young worked. Do-young fakes a surprised look and asks how he figured that out. Gio makes his move. Starting today, he is joining this crew to dig up the truth. He needs to expose Do-young's shady connection to the lab, whether he's working for them or being blackmailed. In the end, he promises they will be brothers again. Cut to an office. Do-young leans back, trying to process this whole crazy situation. He asks if these two really tracked him down just to join the crew. He appreciates the hustle but warns them it's not that simple. Gio smirks. He totally expected this answer. Do-young has always been a guy who plays by strict rules, so Gio boldly claims that the boss will soon realize exactly how badly he needs him. Do-young raises an eyebrow, completely confused. Gio just smiles. "Let me show you." He stands up, leaving everyone confused. Gio casually moves a coffee cup and some folders on the desk. Do-young is caught totally off guard. As the kid just starts rearranging the entire room, Taegu panics, asking what on earth he's doing. He whispers that you can't just mess with the boss's stuff. The rest of the crew is just staring in shock. To finish it off, Gio shoves a heavy cabinet to the side. He dusts off his hands. Done. He explains that this is the absolute best way to maximize the space. The workers instantly start complaining, but Do-young raises a hand. Silence. He stares at Gio and demands to know why this setup is better. Gio breaks it down. Do-young is right-handed, so the coffee goes on the right. Next, the folders need to be stacked by the exact date they arrived. Meanwhile, the pen holder belongs in the corner. Out of the way, but super easy to grab. Do-young crosses his arms. And the cabinet, Gio explains, it was blocking the window, which ruined his clear view of the construction site. For a boss trying to manage a whole crew, having that clear line of sight is everything. The workers shout that he's crazy, claiming they set it up that way for a good reason. But Gio snaps right back. If they actually knew what they were doing, today's accident would never have happened. He drops a truth bomb. Efficiency isn't just about moving fast. It's about setting up a space that anyone can instantly read so they can react the second danger strikes. That is how real efficiency works. And honestly, it's the only real way to stop deadly accidents. Do-young slowly nods. He points out that his own crew didn't even notice a major problem on the site today. He glares at his site manager. "Did you even know about the accident?" The manager stammers, saying he hasn't seen the official report yet. Do-young loses it. "Do you really need a piece of paper to see what's happening right in front of your face?" He yells that anyone with eyes could see the scattered materials or notice the missing workers on the floor. The boss snaps that he should have known there was a massive issue just by looking at the delayed schedule. After ripping his crew a new one, Do-young points a sharp finger right at Gio. Gio just stares back, dead silent. But then, Do-young smirks. He suddenly bursts out laughing. He admits this kid just exposed a massive blind spot that even he had totally missed. Do-young decides it's time to completely rebuild their system from scratch. Gio just smiles inwardly. After all, Do-young is the one who originally taught him this exact trick years ago. Flashback time. A younger Do-young organizes some medical stretchers, bragging about how much smoother the workflow is. Little Gio looks up with huge excited eyes. He says he was so worried about the team and begs Do-young to teach him how to do it. Do-young rubs his neck, a little shy, but happily agrees to show him the ropes. Snap back to the present day. He points right at the protagonist, announcing he's officially starting at the company today. He mentions he needs to step out to take care of some business, expecting all the paperwork to be wrapped up by the time he gets back. Gio gives a respectful nod and Taegu tosses him a compliment. The protagonist realizes he actually knows Do-young way better than he thought, and now he needs to figure out exactly what kind of shady business he's running with that lab. Taegu notices that despite everything, the vibe here is totally hostile. Every single guy around them is glaring daggers. Fast forward 1 hour on the construction site, and the tension is still thick. Taegu complains that they're stuck doing all the heavy lifting until the boss comes back, and Gio calmly replies that just being here is a massive win for him. But then some worker aggressively kicks their pipe, demanding to know who told them to place it like that. He barks that the piece should be facing the opposite way. Gio defends himself, explaining they were just following his exact orders, but the jerk tells him to shut his mouth and flip the pipe. Another hour drags by, and the worker kicks the pipe again, screaming about why they're laying the drainage line right now. Taegu has no idea what this guy's problem is. The worker yells that they didn't even level the ground first. Taegu insists they were just doing exactly what he said, but the guy grabs him by the collar, telling him to get the hell out if he doesn't like it. He orders Taegu to stop whining and tear it all down within the hour. Taegu glances over. A second later, he catches the guy flashing a dirty, mocking smirk. It's obvious he's messing with them, on purpose. This makes Taegu's blood boil. He tells Gio he's hitting the restroom. On his way, he hears the crew laughing it up. They're trash-talking, saying Gio is just a punk-playing boss. They complain they already have too many mouths to feed, and refuse to split their paycheck with some kid. Taegu kicks the door open, calling them a bunch of cheapskates. He warns them they're dead wrong if they think he's just going to roll over and take this. The crew is stunned, wondering how the kid snuck up on them. Taegu immediately grabs one of the guys by the shirt. The big guy snarls that he really wants to punch him but holds back. Taegu snaps right back, saying he started this mess. Another worker steps in to break it up, warning them not to start a brawl. He sneers that the kid doesn't even know the basics. Taegu gets even more ticked off by the sheer audacity. He asks if they think they're the only ones busting their backs. The worker smirks and says if that's the case, they can settle this like men. He challenges Taegu to an arm wrestling match. He promises that if Taegu wins, they'll show some respect and back off. Taegu thinks this is going to be a walk in the park, knowing this guy picked the absolute worst person to challenge. He's ready to wipe that smug smile off his face, in 2 seconds flat. But bam, Taegu's arm is slammed into the table before he can even blink. The kid is completely shell-shocked, trying to process what just hit him. This guy is no joke. If this were a real street fight, he'd be dead meat. The winner loudly announces that both kids have to quit now. Fair is fair. The loser packs up and leaves. It hits Taegu this was their dirty plan all along. His arm only hit the table once, but the pain is insane. To make things worse, the guy crushes his hand even tighter. He growls that they're going for round 2. Taegu raises his free hand, trying to tap out. He admits defeat but warns them that his buddy won't let this slide. He suggests they find a better way to settle this. The worker arrogantly says he'll crush his friend too, but Taegu warns him not to try it. Nobody in this room can handle that guy's crazy stubbornness. Taegu knows if Gio steps in, he'll destroy them all. He begs them to let it go. But the bullies laugh, saying it doesn't matter if they walk away, they'll be leaving with shattered hands anyway. Right? Then the brute starts smashing Taegu's hand into the table over and over. Taegu screams in agony. The attacker raises his arm for one final bone-breaking slam. Suddenly, Gio slams his own hand down on the table. The energy in the room instantly freezes. Everyone is left speechless. Taegu yells Gio's name. Gio coldly states that his arm wrestling rules are a little different, challenging the guy to a real match. The whole crew bursts out laughing, but Gio doesn't even flinch. Taegu spits that they're all just a bunch of cowards. The big guy smirks, declaring the rules have changed and the hospital bill is on the rookie. He brags that he was going to take it, easy out of pity, but not anymore. He warns Gio that his arm is actually going to snap. The two lock hands, getting into position. The bully thinks he's just dealing with some dumb kid who doesn't know his place. He decides right there to crush Gio's hand to dust. To teach them a hard lesson, he boldly announces that this match will be over in just 1 second. Gio brutally slams the guy's arm down on the table. In a split second, his bone completely snaps. The guy instantly screams out in pure agony. The rest of the gang just freezes, totally shocked by the brutal scene. Cold as ice, Gio orders him back to his starting spot. He calmly states that the match isn't over yet and mercilessly smashes the guy's broken arm against the table again. The man drops to the floor, holding his hand and rolling around in intense pain. The rest of the crew starts panicking, screaming for their supervisor, Joe. They all rush at Gio at the exact same time. But Gio doesn't even flinch. His face stays completely deadpan during the ambush. He effortlessly floors 2 of them with just one hand, right until another thug whacks him from behind with a wooden club. But Gio instantly answers with a heavy punch. The impact sends the attacker stumbling back into his friend's arms. Watching this, the foreman realizes Gio isn't human. He screams at everyone to jump the kid all at once, but suddenly a loud voice barks at the punks to stand down. Gio doesn't even flinch. He just turns his head as Dong Young steps onto the scene. He asks what the heck they're doing. One guy tries to make an excuse, but Dong Young slams his head right into the wall. The guy begs for mercy, and Dong Young snaps at them to go train instead of bullying the weak. Taegu panics, realizing this could get Gio fired. He quickly lies, claiming it's just a big misunderstanding, and that they were only wrestling. But Gio shuts that down immediately, pointing out the guy hit his friend first. Dong Young cuts in, saying he already knows. It isn't the first time these guys have pulled this stunt. Still, he warns Gio that he crossed the line too. He orders the kid to take a good look at the mess he made of his guys. Gio fires back that his friend looks just as bad, pointing out Taegu's hand is so swollen he can't even hold anything. He explains he had to hit back that hard just to make sure they'd never mess with them again. Dong Young narrows his eyes, noticing the kid just won't back down. He says he's been nice so far, but Gio is practically begging for a beatdown. Gio says he definitely doesn't want to get hit, but he has to speak up because staying quiet changes absolutely nothing. That hits a nerve. The situation feels way too familiar to Dong Young, pulling him back to the past. Back when he was told the experiments would continue no matter what. Gio's voice echoes his own silence, fixes nothing. He boldly states he can take any punishment, but he will never just stand by and watch a friend get hurt. Dong Young has to admit the kid is a spitting image of his younger self. Meanwhile, Taegu is whining that they're about to get tossed out on the streets, but Dong Young asks where he even got that idea. He tells them Gio isn't just walking away after causing all this trouble. Gio blinks in surprise. Dong Young explains that since the guy with the broken arm is heading to the hospital, somebody has to cover his shift. The foreman tries to cut in, suggesting the other guys take over instead, but Dong Young tells him to shut it, warning that he's barely holding his temper together. Gio asks if he just needs to do the injured guy's work. Dong Young tells him to skip the details and just show up at 5 in the morning, because he's going to train the kid personally. The next day, right on time, Gio figures this must be some secret lab stuff. He's trying to picture what kind of sketchy job they have lined up when Dong Young spots him. The boss orders the kid to follow, leading him deep underground. He hits the button for a rusty elevator, leaving Gio wondering if there's actually a basement here. As the freight elevator drops, Gio tries to piece together what this guy is hiding. Dong Young asks if he's feeling nervous, and Gio admits he kinda is. The older man jokes that just yesterday, he was totally fearless, but now he's starting to lose his cool. Gio firmly replies that he just couldn't stand by like a coward when his friend was in trouble. Dong Young nods, agreeing that's way better than the idiots who are all talk. But his tone turns dead serious as he warns Gio never to do that again. He makes it crystal clear if the kid starts trouble down here, he isn't making it out alive. The elevator finally hits bottom and Dong Young announces they've arrived. Gio's eyes widen as he realizes that right under the construction site lies an endless underground tunnel. He really wonders what this guy is planning to do with the lab. Dong Young flat out says everything down here is a strict company secret. He orders Gio to move all the heavy barrels over to their marked spots. Gio asks what's inside them, but Dong Young snaps at him to stop asking questions. He demands every single barrel be moved by the end of the day with zero complaints, especially since Gio was the one who beat up his guys. Turning his back, he tells Gio to get to work. Gio lets out a relieved smile, honestly glad to see his old partner again after so long. He's this close to revealing his true identity. But first, he needs to figure out what the guy is actually plotting. Once he knows that, he'll drop the disguise. He shifts his focus to the barrels, dying to know what's hidden inside. They're tightly sealed, clearly meant to stay shut, but he decides to pop the lid open anyway. He rips the metal top off like it's nothing, and his eyes lock onto what's inside. That harsh chemical smell hits him instantly. It's from the lab. He plunges his bare hand right into the liquid, knowing that if it absorbs into his bloodstream, he'll know exactly what it is. Suddenly, he gasps in shock. It's the exact same burning feeling as when they splashed him with it before. He pulls his arm out and it's completely mutated. He realizes this is the exact same poison they used in his experiments. What in the world is Kang Dong Young cooking up? He knows he has to warn Hai right away. This is the missing link. Meanwhile, in a dark security room, Dong Young is watching the whole thing on camera. His own hands slowly begin to turn into solid stone. He mutters to himself that he already knew the new kid wasn't just some random punk. But now it's confirmed he's a real mutant. The fact that he busted open that barrel proves he might be working for a rival organization. Mad about the stolen chemicals, he plans to squeeze the truth out of the thief the second his crew makes the catch. He hops on the radio warning his guys that the intruder can heal, so they better not hold anything back. He really wants to test the limits of that healing factor. Meanwhile, Gio is trying to figure out what Dong Jung's endgame actually is. It hits him, the guy knew from day one and played him like a fiddle. Gio actually thought Dong Jung was just some clueless fool. Man, was he dead wrong. It is obvious now that Dong Jung has been studying his every move, totally figuring him out. This means they were waiting for him to break in all along. Gio has to admit he has zero clue what this guy really wants. Suddenly, the doors bust open and a whole mob of thugs rushes in. Gio instantly realizes he picked the absolute worst target. The goons taunt him to step up, bragging that they already know his secret. Caught off guard, he demands to know what the heck is going on. One of them smirks, saying they watched the whole thing on the security cameras, calling him a freak mutant. The whole gang rushes him at once. Watching from afar, Dong Jung wonders if our boy realizes he is totally out of options. With his escape route blocked, he has no choice but to smash his way through. He launches one of the punks flying across the room. The sheer impact leaves the rest of the crew shaking in their boots. But Gio does not give them a single second to breathe, swinging wild until a bunch of them finally tackle him to the floor. Gio just eats punch after punch without a break. One guy mocks his healing factor, warning that his baseball bat is about to snap some bones. Gio tosses the heavy hitter aside like it is absolutely nothing. Dong Jung notes that kind of raw power could easily crush a normal guy, but he can feel the kid is still holding back his true power, and he knows the real show is about to start. Another thug charges in, swinging heavy metal chains. A whole group dogpiles Gio, pinning him hard against the concrete. They wrap the thick chains around him, locking down every single limb. But then the goons panic as he slowly starts pushing himself back up. One of the guys whips out a hunting knife, screaming at the crew to keep him pinned down. Their dirty plans slice right through his nerves, so he brutally stabs the kid over and over again, raising his blade to deliver one final crippling strike. The thug freezes in pure shock. He has plunged the knife in dozens of times, but Gio has not even flinched. It is completely unnatural. Gio simply taps his finger on the floor. Activating his resurrection heart, every drop of spilled blood starts crawling right back to him. Dong Jung watches in disbelief as the kid literally absorbs all the blood painted across the room. As the blood flows and his shattered body stitches itself back together. The healing factor is working way faster than the damage they can deal out. This kind of insane healing speed is extremely rare. Even worse for the thugs, every drop of blood he drinks just makes him stronger. Now Gio is built like a runaway freight train, and Dong Jung is dying to know what kind of mutant heart is pumping inside him. Gio shifts into battle mode. He vanishes in the blink of an eye, completely crushing another thug's face with a brutal punch. Bodies start flying across the room as Gio tears through the remaining gang members one by one. The blonde leader panics at the kid's crazy speed, but Gio is already standing right in front of him. He drives a massive punch straight into the guy's chest. The man instantly coughs up a huge mouthful of blood, collapsing right back into his buddy's arms. Gio casually dodges another swing. He digs his bare hands into the floor and literally rips the concrete apart. The thugs think they are losing their minds watching this. Lifting a giant boulder of pure concrete, he hurls it straight at them. The gang just freezes in absolute terror. They throw their arms up, hoping to survive the impact. Instantly, a massive cloud of dust explodes through the room. When the smoke clears, the goons are completely unharmed. Gio's face stays dead serious. A giant fist made of solid stone shatters the concrete boulder. Dong Jung has stepped into the ring. He stares Gio down, saying he has just one question. He demands to know what kind of mutant heart is inside the kid. The giant boss admits he has fought heart mutants before, but healing fatal wounds in under a second, that is unheard of. He realizes this kid's healing factor is on a whole other tier. Only one person comes to mind, but that kid had incredibly weak powers. Plus, that boy supposedly died in a massive explosion. Gio just stands there totally silent. Taking that silence as a solid yes, Dong Jung warns him that he's going to have to beat some manners into him. Gio smoothly dodges the heavy swings. He knows it is way too early to drop his disguise and reveal his true identity. So he decides to play dumb and keep his suspicions about Kang Dong Jung a secret for now. Gio just keeps dancing around every single punch. Finally, Dong Jung winds up for a massive heavy strike. He mocks the kid's fancy instant healing powers. He warns the kid that relying on just healing is a huge mistake, because his next attack is going to do a lot more than just leave a bruise. Right on cue, massive pillars of solid stone erupt from the floor. The giant rocks shoot straight toward Gio, ready to crush him flat. Gio slams hard into a massive boulder. Dong Jung glares at him, warning him that this is his absolute last chance. He clenches his fist, gathering jagged rocks around his hand. His fist becomes encased in a thick, heavy layer of stone armor. He demands to know one last time exactly who sent him. Gio suddenly realizes he can't move. His feet are completely fused to the ground and heavy rocks are tightly trapping his legs. Dong Jung sees the kid staying dead, silent, totally ignoring the threat. Without hesitating, he winds up and unleashes a brutal punch, smashing right into the boy's face. The impact is so insane that Gio is blasted backward, crashing straight through a solid stone wall. The factory gang watches in absolute terror, trembling at the sheer violence. Meanwhile, Dong Jung just stands there cold and unfazed. As the dust settles, Gio's head goes flying through the air. That punch was so unbelievably powerful, it literally ripped his body apart. His headless body collapses onto the cold dirt. The thugs are left completely speechless by the gruesome sight. But then, Gio's severed head starts oozing blood in a very unnatural way. The dark red liquid stretches out, acting just like glue, pulling his head right back onto his neck. In mere seconds, his whole body completely regenerates. Dong Young's eyes widen in pure shock as the kid casually stands back up. Totally fine after getting decapitated, Gio instantly takes advantage of his shock, dashing in to deliver a massive punch right to his gut. Dong Young gasps, wondering, is this kid still healing and getting stronger at the same time? The sheer force of the punch sends him skidding backward. Dong Young digs his feet hard into the dirt, scraping the ground, until he finally manages to stop himself. He glares at Gio, smirking as he says that weak little punch meant nothing. Flesh and bone can never break through solid stone, he yells, warning the kid that he is only going to shatter his own arm. But he realizes he spoke way too soon, because while he was bragging, Gio's mangled arm had already fully healed itself. This fast healing surprises him, sparking a dark memory. The face of a boy named Kim Gio flashes in his mind. Back then, that kid took hours just to heal a broken arm. Yet, he can't shake the resemblance. Meanwhile, this mysterious guy in front of him is healing instantly, even from a missing head. He shakes it off, convincing himself that this kid is nothing like the monster he remembers. He figures anyone with this kind of crazy power must be sent by a rival gang trying to dig up secrets about the secret lab. But it doesn't matter who he is. Dong Young roars that no one will ever touch that lab, launching a massive wave of sharp stones right at him. Gio is once again buried alive under heavy rocks, but this time he violently smashes his way out and charges straight ahead. Dong Young freezes in absolute disbelief and eats a clean punch right to his jaw. Even so, he spits out blood and tells the kid to just give up because hitting him is completely useless. He sneers, warning him that the lab will rip him apart to find out his true identity once he delivers his body. Gio hears this and it clicks. He was totally right all along. He glares at the giant, realizing this scumbag has been capturing and selling innocent mutants to the lab. You're going to pay for what you did, Gio says coldly. Dong Young laughs, asking what the hell he means by that. But our boy doesn't even give him a second to think. He sinks another brutal punch deep into the guy's gut, telling him it's time to pay for his sins. Dong Young groans, calling him insane. I'm about to be a billionaire, he screams, threatening to sell the kid's regenerating body to the absolute highest bidder. Gio's eyes go dark. Then I'll just have to beat some sense into you, he mutters. Suddenly, he starts absorbing all the spilled blood off the floor. Dong Young watches in horror, trying to process what the hell is happening. An insane amount of blood just gets sucked right into the kid's body. He realizes the kid is literally powering himself up before he can react. Bam! Another heavy blow to the stomach. Dong Young calls him a complete idiot for wasting his crazy powers like this. He yells again that pathetic human bones can never ever break through solid rock. He thinks this whole fight is just a bad joke, but Gio totally ignores him, throwing punch after punch without stopping for a single second. You can hit me 1,000 times, Dong roars. The result is exactly the same. The only thing that's going to break here is your own damn hand. Unfazed, Gio winds up for another massive attack and slams a fist right into his ribs with terrifying, brutal force. And right then, Dong Young finally feels a sharp sting of pain. He panics, wondering why these punches are actually starting to hurt. Suddenly, Gio moves way faster than before, launching a picture-perfect hook straight to his jaw. Gio doesn't give him a single second to breathe. If I have to hit you 1,000 times, then I will, he says coldly. Dong Young finally realizes he's dealing with an absolute psychopath. Sweating, he actually starts trying to dodge the attacks. He realizes Gio doesn't care at all if his own flesh gets ripped apart. That's exactly why the kid is fighting so recklessly, just risking everything to break through his defenses. Crack, a tiny fracture appears in his stone armor and it's spreading fast. Dong Young desperately swings a heavy stone fist to counter but hits thin air. Gio is already gone. Before he can blink, Gio smashes his chest again, launching the giant backward like a feather. Dong Young just can't keep up with this insane speed. He drops low, desperately trying to catch his breath and stay alive. A splitting headache hits him hard and the cracks running down his stone-like skin spread out violently. Does this kid even feel pain? He suddenly realizes his massive mistake. Trying to capture this boy alive was pure idiocy. You can't just put a leash on a monster like this. In a desperate move, he starts devouring rocks, straight from the dirt. Gio watches closely, trying to process the madness. Dong Young feels his own flesh ripping apart, as his heart violently reacts to the process. He screams at his crew to run for their lives if they want to survive. The crew doesn't think twice and scatters. Dong Young completely floods his heart with minerals. His body density reaches its absolute breaking point. The earth starts shaking violently beneath them. He clenches his fists, roaring that he is going to uproot the entire area, molding it into one massive crushing boulder. Jiho is completely stunned, wondering how a single guy can control something this insanely huge. He knows if that thing lands a direct hit, he'll be instantly pulverized into dust. His only move is to get out of there as fast as humanly possible. Dong Young screams that it is game over for the kid. Massive stone walls shoot up from the ground, trapping Jiho and crushing him from all sides between the giant boulders. The heavy impact sends debris blasting in every direction. Dong-young never expected that fighting one single mutant would ever push him to use 100% of his raw power. He gasped for air, desperately trying to catch his breath while coughing up blood all over the floor from the massive strain. He thinks about the insane payout he would get for bringing the kid in breathing, but holding back just wasn't an option anymore. Right then, he notices something deeply unsettling up ahead. Through the thick dust, a literal skeleton crawls out from the rubble. He can hardly believe this freak actually survived. Jiho's shredded flesh struggles to stitch itself back together, but he suddenly collapses to the dirt. Dong-young smirks, realizing an overpowered ability like that must have its limits. A chill runs down his spine just thinking about the kid standing back up. Well, at least there is still a corpse to ship back to the lab, but then the impossible happens. The skeletal arm twitches, moving completely on its own, dragging its bony fingers across the ground in a super creepy way. Dong-young freezes in absolute terror, muttering that it is impossible. All the spilled blood on the floor starts rushing toward the boy, soaking straight into his skeletal arms. Jiho lunges forward, charging at him as a literal pile of moving bones. Dong-young is terrified. He has never heard of an immortal mutant before. He suddenly realizes this isn't just regular healing. This crazy power defies death itself. In a flash, our hero lands a crushing blow right into his gut. Dong-young immediately violently coughs up a mouthful of blood. The brutal impact sends him flying and crashing hard into the warehouse wall. He slumps heavily to the floor right after violently coughing as Jiho slowly and menacingly walks toward him. Gasping, Dong-young demands to know what kind of freakish power this is. He slowly looks up at him, screaming to know his true identity. But suddenly, it clicks. He can't believe his own eyes. The skeletal frame looks exactly like his old best friend. Wait, didn't his friend die all those years ago? He stammers, asking if it is really him. Before desperately screaming out the name Kim Jiho, Dong-young is completely baffled. Why would he hide his overpowered abilities and sneak into this company? Jiho casually touches the floor again. Dong-young panics, thinking he is charging up his lethal powers for another strike. Our guy drops his stance, getting ready to rush him with full lethal intent. He instantly realizes Jiho is actually going in for the kill. Knowing his body will shatter if he takes another hit like that, he screams out Kim Jiho's name again. He yells, asking if Jiho is seriously going to murder his own friend. He screams at the idiot to stop swinging. Jiho halts, his fist just an inch from his face. A little while later, back inside the office, Dong-young is deep in thought about Kim Jiho. He brought the guy up here to cool the tension, but this new Jiho is absolutely nothing like the kid he used to know. His healing factor is beyond insane, to the point where the guy is basically a walking immortal. He wonders just how much his old friend has really changed over the years. Honestly, Dong-young sees this as a massive win. Jiho has always been a total softie, and keeping a powerhouse like him under his direct control would be the ultimate jackpot. He tells him straight up that he thought he died way back then. Dong-young pushes, demanding to know why he went undercover, but Jiho cuts him right off, telling him to hand over his palm before they talk. Completely confused, Dong-young stretches out his hand, mentioning he took some damage during their fight earlier, but Jiho calmly says he already knows, and that is exactly why he asked for it. Flashing back to an intense training session with Hyun, she bluntly asks if the whole Choen situation has been eating at him. Jiho quietly nods, admitting that it was definitely messing with his head. He desperately asks what he should do if a nightmare like Chuan happens again. Without missing a beat, she tells him he has to fight. But for Jiho, the thought of throwing down against an old friend is just too heartbreaking, especially since he spent years missing them. He asks if there is any possible way to just talk some sense into them. She stares at him, asking what it is he truly wants out of this. Jiho replies, with pure sincerity, that he just wants to rescue the friends caught up with the lab. She realizes he is talking about the old crew who used to have their backs, but she brutally shoots down his hopes, explaining that words are not going to save anyone here. These guys are cold-blooded killers, now practically hardened criminals. She looks him dead in the eye and asks, do you seriously think monsters like that are going to listen to you crying and begging for the past? He's just going to end up as a pawn. Instead of playing it cool and smart, they'll just toss him right into the fire and watch him burn, just like they did with Sean. Sure, his friends need saving, but they're also the exact same people who could end his life. Jiho thinks about dying at their hands. He actually agrees, admitting they aren't the innocent kids he used to know anymore. It hits him that if he keeps acting like this, he's going to lose whatever is left of his crew. So he asks what he needs to change to save everyone. Yihan smiles, saying she really likes his drive, but warns him he's getting one thing totally wrong. He needs to completely flip his mindset from the start and stop looking at them as friends if he actually wants to save them. He has to stand above them. Jiho is totally confused by that. The girl just bites her own finger, telling him to try absorbing her blood. Snapping back to the present, Jiho says he's done with his business. He looks right at the guy and warns him to stop lying, starting right now. At that exact moment, he zones in on the guy's heartbeat. He tells him he can hear his heart pounding loud and clear. Do-young is freaking out, wondering how that's possible. Geo explains he drank the blood, and now has this ability thanks to Yi-in's power. She explained to him earlier that blood mutants can physically feel heartbeats. If he can read someone's true intentions, just by listening to their chest, he holds all the cards in this talk. Geo asks why the guy is working for the lab, especially since they were tortured there for 10 long years. He demands an answer right now. Da-young is stunned, realizing Geo isn't bluffing about hearing his pulse. He looks at the boy, seeing that he came back as an absolute monster, and wonders what the hell happened to him. The man takes a breath and says he only needs to know one thing. He asks what Geo's endgame is. Geo doesn't hesitate, saying he wants to wipe out the lab. Da-young literally spits out his coffee, asking if he's crazy. The boy just nods, asking how deep the man is involved with them. Da-young tells him to stop being so reckless, warning him that taking down the facility is impossible. On top of that, he reminds Geo that all their friends are trapped inside. Geo doesn't flinch, swearing he will crush the place and drag his friends out. The man shakes his head, saying he won't help at all, because making an enemy out of the lab is a death wish. Geo replies he's just here for info, and he doesn't need anyone's permission to smash the place. Do-young grits his teeth, totally frustrated. But as raw fear takes over, he finally caves and slides over all the files he had been hoarding. It's a massive pile of data he secretly gathered from inside the base. It has pretty much everything, from facility blueprints to subject code names and even lists of missing people. He hands over photos and logs, saying that besides the top security stuff, everything else is right here. Then he begs to be left out of the mission. Geo points out that something feels totally off about this. He notes that Kang Do-young has way too much inside info on the facility. If he really didn't want to fight them, hoarding this much intel makes zero sense. He adds that the second he talked about attacking the base, Do-young's heartbeat went completely crazy. It was like he had been waiting his whole life to hear those words. Deep down, Do-young wants to bring them down too. Do-young is caught off guard, amazed that a simple heartbeat gave all his secrets away. He sighs, admitting he really can't hide anything from Geo. He confesses that yeah, that's exactly what he wants. He'd love to crush the lab, but always thought it was an impossible dream. The organization is way bigger than anyone realizes, and these guys have strings pulled everywhere. Their bases are buried deep underground, completely off the grid for normal people, and their reach in the real world is just insane. Their whole empire is built on the blood of their own friends. They know exactly how to play people. They prey on weaknesses, dangling rewards like bait just to keep everyone on a tight leash. That's why he's so hesitant, asking if Geo still wants to go through with this suicide mission. Geo looks him in the eye and swears he'll free their friends, making sure the lab never uses them again. He doesn't care how massive the enemy is, there's no changing his mind now. However, he makes it clear that he needs Kang Do-young to back him up. Do-young sighs, reminding him he already tried, warning that just the two of them will never be enough to pull this off. But Geo smirks, revealing he's not flying solo. That little detail definitely grabs Do-young's attention. Geo casually asks if he's ever heard the name Song Yi-in. Do-young freezes, asking if he means the leader of the mutant squad. He knows for a fact that she's the one person even the higher-ups are terrified to mess with, widely known as the most overpowered mutant in history. He can't wrap his head around why Geo is just casually dropping this monster's name. He asks if she's actually backing this insane plan, and Geo nods, saying he can meet her right now. Do-young realizes that if someone like her is on their side, he might actually have a shot at convincing the rest of the crew, especially since Kim Geo used to be tight with them. He knows this is totally insane, but he can't help wondering, can he actually trust this guy? Geo just looks at him and tells him to have faith. The kid lets out a heavy sigh, muttering about how Geo just popped out of nowhere and flipped his whole world upside down. Then he reaches out and shakes Geo's hand. He's all in, even though he admits they're walking straight into some seriously dark and unknown territory. A guy's voice calls out for test subject 0032 Lim Naren. He announces that she's the new regeneration subject designed to completely replace him. He ruthlessly drops the hammer, telling her that absolutely nobody is coming to save her. Meanwhile, back in the office, Hee-in points out that this guy was a lab rat just like Geo. She spills the details, revealing he's currently running Odan Construction, a company that focuses on foundations and underground digging, and it's all just a front to back up the lab. She leans in and asks if she's got it right so far. Do-young admits she's done her homework, figuring she must have been digging into his past from day one. She doesn't deny it, confirming he's been sitting on their suspect list for quite a while, and that he was already well aware of the fake identity tied to the lab, exactly like Geo. Do-young glares, saying he doesn't find this funny at all. He snaps that it's pretty messed up for the cops to use a friend as bait. He warns her that she's crossing a very dangerous line, but the girl just laughs it off, teasing him that he actually looks kind of cute when he's mad, looking like an angry little porcupine. Do-young gets even more ticked off, demanding to know what she just called him. Gio just watches them, noticing the guy's heart is pounding so hard against his chest that he doesn't even need superpowers to smell the fear on him. Deep down, Do-young admits to himself that he's absolutely terrified. After all, he's sitting face to face with the head of the mutant squad, someone that even the lab is scared to mess with. Almost like she can read his mind, she mentions hearing about his own plans to attack the facility. Do-young tells her to back off and not judge him too hard, since at the end of the day they're both going after the exact same enemy. Trusting the cops isn't easy for him. He knows they could just use him for information and then toss him to the curb. She leans back and asks how he'd feel if she promised not to do that. She flashes a confident smile, assuring him that she's way warmer than he might think. Do-young scoffs, shooting back the talk is incredibly cheap, and so far she hasn't given him a single reason to trust her. Yoon gives him a sharp look, warning him that his stubbornness isn't getting him anywhere. She drops a heavy threat, suggesting maybe he'd like to end up in the exact same place as Chaewon. She casually reveals that she recently tossed him straight into prison. She claims she actually tried to find a way to clear his name, but the guy was too stubborn and completely refused to listen to reason. She makes it crystal clear that he could easily join his buddy behind bars. Do-young's eyes go wide with confusion, trying to wrap his head around how Chaewon ended up getting busted. The two keep going back and forth, arguing until Do-young finally cracks and asks for a chance. Yoon gets dead serious, warning him that helping the lab is a massive crime. She lays it out straight, it's literally the same as funding a terrorist group, and she could lock him up right here, right now. But she offers to completely wipe his slate clean and ignore his past, as long as he plays by her rules. Why? Because she wants to tear that lab down to the ground just as much as he does. Hearing this, Do-young promises to help. Flipping the switch to business mode, Yoon asks him to hand over the most valuable intel he's got right now. He doesn't hesitate, saying they need to rescue one of their friends immediately because her powers are incredibly useful. He points to a photo of the girl as Lim Naren. He looks over at Gio, asking if he remembers her. Gio smiles, saying she was always this super sweet, bubbly girl. But Do-young instantly cuts him off, arguing that she was totally cold and dead silent. It's like they're talking about two completely different people. Do-young looks at him like he's crazy, demanding to know what he's talking about since Naren was always so gloomy. But Gio totally stands his ground. He gets a flashback of her sneaking up, wrapping her arms around him from behind, asking what he needed, and cheerfully begging him to come play with everyone. Gio remembers telling her to be careful because he was hurt. He warned her that his skin was right in the middle of healing, and it probably looked super gross. But the girl didn't care at all, saying she liked him just the way he was. She smiled, telling him that watching his wounds magically heal actually made her really happy and she loves seeing it. Do-young looks totally shocked, asking if that rude little kid actually said something like that. Honestly, it just makes the whole situation line up perfectly. Yoon chimes in, noting that getting the girl on their side should be a total breeze since she was so tight with Gio back in the day. She smirks, saying it would be totally awesome to snatch at least one more friend right out of the lab's nasty claws. Glancing over the intel, the mission actually looks like a walk in the park. The transport trucks are scheduled to roll right through Silver White Road. The game plan, wait out of sight along the highway, and then completely ambush the convoy. And boom, just like that, they'll pull off the rescue and save Lim Naren. Do-young gets nervous, pointing out that the lab might catch on the second he makes a move, so he practically begs for police protection. Yoon calmly explains that this is the exact window the cops need to completely lock down all the surrounding roads. She adds that they're going to jam all communications for making sure zero backup can get through. Do-young nods, realizing that having the actual police and a high-ranking officer playing on their team is a massive advantage. Now that he fully gets the game plan, he agrees to jump in. Cut to a bit later, the crew arrives at the target stretch of highway. The two of them take cover behind the rocky hills. As they wait, Do-young leans in and asks one more time, wasn't Lim Naren actually a total psychopath? He says she did all sorts of messed up things, but to Gio, it was just her being kind. Do-young swears she is completely out of her mind no matter how you look at it. He remembers that normally, the lab would just toss out anyone with a useless power, but they actually put up with this girl. Then he drops another question, wondering how Sean ended up behind bars. Gio tells him the guy's rap sheet was just way too long for the cops to look the other way. Do-young brings up the rumors about all the heavy stuff he pulled, making it no shock at all that he got locked up. He thinks back, realizing that in the years since Gio left, a whole lot has completely flipped upside down. A lot went down while he was gone, and hearing from him again is a massive shock. He figures the guy is only still breathing because the lab assumed his heart just had a basic healing trick. Gio admits even he had no clue he would bounce back this much, adding that his healing was actually pretty slow, back when he was a kid. Do-young says it is good to see him doing alright, especially since he lost touch with most of the old crew. His mind flashes back to the mutant stun guns, the captured gear, and the awful sounds of his friends getting dragged away. He remembers every single detail, and just hearing the word lab makes his whole body tense up on its own. He is completely terrified, reacting, almost like Pavlov's dog. Even right now, he feels like he might just lose his grip. He turns and asks if his buddy is not scared of the lab at all. Gio stays quiet for a second but finally admits he is terrified too. The thing is, he watched someone get taken right in front of him, and losing a friend hurts way more than getting his own body ripped to shreds, which is exactly why he plans to rip that lab right out by the roots. He has felt enough fear and is sick and tired of running away. It is time to wipe these guys off the map for good. This time around, he swears he will become the lab's worst nightmare. Meanwhile, Yen is tracking the cargo from a distance through her binoculars. She signals that the targets have rolled past and it is time to block the road. The secretary immediately barks out orders and hits the signal jammer. Do-hyun calls in that his squad is good to go. Hyun runs through the game plan one last time, reminding everyone to keep radio chatter to a minimum so those scumbags do not spot them. Everyone is leaning on Kim Gio to call the shots. The kid takes a massive leap and launches himself straight into the action. The truck driver is totally confused, staring at whatever is dropping right out of the sky in front of him. From a distance, Do-hyun tells himself it is time to crush his own fears. He channels his power, twisting and shaping the rocks on the ground. The driver panics, wondering if this guy is a heart mutant, but suddenly, a massive wall of solid rock shoots up right in front of the convoy, trapping them instantly. The vehicles slam hard right into the barricade. Do-hyun notices the metal is insanely tough. There is not even a single scratch on the transport truck. After the heavy crash, the driver grabs the radio and screams that they are under attack. He yells at the guards to lock down the transport truck, keeping the test subject safe and to stop anyone from getting those doors open. They absolutely cannot let these attackers take the mutant inside. But right then, Gio lands with a heavy thud on the roof, telling them they are already way too late. The driver freezes in shock at the sound of his voice. The other guards are screaming to lock the doors tight, but our guy just calmly says not to bother. He grabs a heavy rock and starts smashing it against the iron door. The hits are so brutal that his own fingers get completely crushed. The terrified guards are freaking out, wondering how this maniac just punched through solid armor. Before long, our guy jams his bleeding hands right into the hole he just made, using every ounce of his strength to literally rip the metal wide open. Inside, something catches his eye. Im Naren's coat is just tossed on the floor. Suddenly, a squad of armed soldiers swarms the truck. They have strict orders to take out the attacker. Gio calls out that he found the girl, and tells them he will wrap this up in 5 minutes. Do-hyun slams his hands into the dirt with even more power, throwing up walls of rock to trap the soldiers, crushing them right on the spot. A few of them try to make a run for it, firing non-stop as they try to figure out what they are up against. Do-hyun catches a bullet, but the shooters quickly realize his skin is like armor. Since Gio's power is still a total mystery, the soldiers lock onto him and decide to just light him up all at once. Gio weaves through the gunfire and dives for cover, then makes a dead sprint in the opposite direction. The soldiers scream that the enemy is closing in with the help of the rock mutant. Gio gets up close and smashes a soldier, driving his goggles straight into his face, and he repeats this brutal strike over and over. The guards go flying backward right until a bullet clips Gio in the head, followed by heavy hits to his chest and legs. His body is absolutely riddled with bullets, but he starts healing instantly, moving at blinding speed. He decks one of the agents, sending him flying before charging the rest of the squad. Boom! A heavy hit knocks him back. Glowing electric harpoons pierce his body, pinning him down. Do-hyun freezes. That weapon is bad news. He used to brush off these stun guns. They could never break his rock wall. But now a harpoon shoots straight at his chest. The voltage surges, shocking Do-hyun instantly. His stone armor cracks and starts falling apart. Snapping back to reality, he lifts his rocks again. His body still remembers that burning pain. If he gets shocked, his powers are totally gone. But this time, he dodges the harpoons. He kicks himself, realizing he does not need to fear these weapons or dwell on the past anymore. After all, the guns are useless if he smashes their generators. Suddenly, a heavy blast slams into his side. He hits the dirt, rolling backward. The agents lock onto him with explosive rounds and open fire, showing zero mercy. Do-hyun covers his face, throwing up a quick wall of rocks to block the hit, but the harpoons rip through the crossfire and snag his arm. Do-hyun grits his teeth. He is done for. His double rock layer gets pierced right in the weak spot, but Gio catches the wires right before they fry his buddy, taking the massive electric shock instead. The guards crank up the juice, planning to fry him for good. They push the voltage to the max, but then notice something terrifying. Gio is actually pulling the cables toward himself. He drags every single agent forward and tosses them away with pure brute strength. One guard freaks out. How is this kid surviving a shock that would kill a normal person? Gio groans that it actually really hurts and warns them they should not use that stuff on people. The officer yells, asking who he is and what he wants. Gio calmly says he is looking for a friend. The soldier buys none of it. He growls that he does not care who the kid is looking for, warning him he picked the wrong fight. Gio does not waste another second. He rushes in and knocks the guy out cold. After the dust settles, Do Hyung suggests tying up the guards, but Gio shakes his head. They do not have time for that. Do Hyung thinks they have all the time in the world, since they already rescued the girl. But his heart drops when he opens the cargo van. The girl is missing and instead he frees. A totally random guy. Gio glares, saying they need to find her right now. He rips off the driver's door with his bare hands, demanding to know where she is hidden. The driver begs for his life. Gio steps closer, saying he knows the guy has answers, and orders him to spill everything about the missing girl. Their intel said she was being moved through here. But the bad guys pulled a bait and switch. Time is ticking, so the driver better talk fast. Gio just wants to know where she ended up. Turns out she is locked up at the temporary mutant holding center. Inside the lab, a scientist notes that the girl is out cold, but her vitals are totally stable. Her pupil response is weak, and she barely feels any pain. Suddenly, a sharp thorn sprouts from her skin, nearly stabbing the scientist in the eye. His buddy tells him to stay sharp, warning that even while unconscious, her body is still reacting. She has no idea what she's doing, but her defense instincts are wide awake. The guy smirks, noting her thorn growth speed is actually pretty impressive. But he could not care less about the thorns. He grabs the girl's chin, whispering that he really just wants her rapid healing power. Her healing factor is not as insane as Gio's, but it is perfect for their twisted experiments. The only rule, do not let the girl die. Dead bodies give 0 results. Right then, a tech guy calls the boss, panicking about a massive problem. The first transport team got ambushed in the streets. The director is furious. How did anyone figure out their secret route? This ruins everything. He delays Team 2's departure immediately. He orders everyone back to the main lab. But suddenly, the scientists look up at the ceiling in pure terror. A massive boulder smashes into the facility's front door, crushing everything in its path. Over the radio, Gio smoothly announces he found the hideout and the rescue mission starts right now. The head doctor instantly realizes 2 rogue mutants just breached their base. He screams, demanding to know how they had the guts to be so reckless. A female officer reports. She's being moved by Team 2. Do Hyung grabs a guard, demanding the transport schedule. Trembling, the guy hands over the papers, completely terrified. He cries that he knows absolutely nothing. He was just following orders. Gio reads the file. Supervisor Han Ki-chul is running this lab. Heavily armed cops start pushing toward the intruders. They open fire on Gio and Do Hyung's cover. Gio mutters he never expected Han Ki-chul to be the boss here. Do Hyung admits he had no clue either. His rise through the ranks all traces back to that incident 3 years ago. Because of that, they decide to split up right then and there. The enemy is totally focused on locking them down and taking them alive. Jin steps up, saying he is going to rescue Inherent, while Do Hyung draws their fire. Annoyed, Do Hyung mutters that he gets the logic. Jin reminds him they knew they were walking into hell by coming here. He adds that saving Inherent is the main goal, even offering to swap roles if he has to. Do Hyung slams his hand into the ground, sparking his power, and tells his buddy to stop talking trash right now. Massive stone spikes shoot up from the floor. He smirks, saying they both know he is way better at making a scene, and tells Jin to just go. He promises to hold down the fort. The cops instantly lock onto Do Hyung, weapons raised and ready. They do not hold back, unloading everything they have. One of the rounds nails Do Hyung right in the forehead, but he shrugs it off with a stone shield, wrapping his fist in heavy rock armor. He charges straight at them, shouting that this tight hallway is the perfect playground for his powers. His punch sends the cops flying like ragdolls. One of the guards screams that he is a high-risk target with earth powers. The squad frantically scrambles to reload. Their captain barks the order to bring out the heavy-duty weapons. But out of nowhere, a heavy chain whips through the air. It violently wraps around Do Hyung's fist as a cold voice orders them to hold their fire. Han Ki-chul steps out of the shadows, scolding the men for almost breaking such a highly valuable lab rat. He smirks, noting this is subject number 72, the Earth Manipulator. He mockingly calls Do Hyung by his real name, and the kid freezes, suddenly realizing his mask was completely blown off. Han Ki-chul casually brings up how, after escaping and getting caught 3 years ago, Do Hyung swore absolute loyalty to the facility. The twisted boss glares at him, saying he just stabbed them in the back again and is beyond any saving now. Back then, this guy brutally tortured Do Hyung, crushing his entire body with thick iron chains. The kid had screamed his lungs out, begging for mercy. Looking at him now, Han Ki-chul laughs, pointing out how Do Hyung's rock armor is already crumbling from pure panic, not from taking hits. He mocks him, saying his power is great, but absolutely useless since he is shaking like a leaf. Yet somehow this coward grew the spine to run away again. The creep figures the only reason Do Hyung even made it out was because the other subjects dragged his weak body along, since he never had the guts to make a move like that on his own. He fiercely warns the kid that from now on his life belongs entirely to the lab, and becoming their loyal dog is his only ticket to surviving this. Snapping back to reality, Han Kichul keeps pushing his buttons, laughing that a total wimp like him would never dare to actually fight back. But Do Young just tightens his rocky fist, growling that nobody forced him to do a single thing. He shouts that he walked back into this hell on his own, 2 feet gripping the heavy chain, and violently yanking Han Kichul forward with everything he has got. The boss actually looks a little stunned by this burst of fire, but a second later he unleashes a massive wave of chains, launching himself up into the air. Floating up high, he sneers that Do Hyung only ran with the others because he was absolutely terrified of dying alone. The boy freezes up, his heart dropping as he realizes his massive punch did 0 damage. Meanwhile, the squad wheels out a massive generator. They instantly open fire with pulse guns, desperately trying to lock the kid down. Do Young spots the barrage coming and frantically dives out of the way. Backpedaling hard, he curses that arrogant jerk in his head. The guards keep spraying energy rounds, shouting to cut off any way out. Han Kichul hurls a terrifying spiked ball straight at him. The deadly weapon closes in fast while Do Young realizes this psycho is purposely aiming right at his deepest trauma. The sick freak is just waiting for that split second when the boy gets totally paralyzed by fear. But fighting through the panic, Do Young rips a giant rock wall from the floor. He flashes back to just seconds ago, knowing he was right on the edge of breaking down completely. Sadly, the chains easily shatter the rock and completely wrap him up again. Han Kichul laughs, asking if throwing a little tantrum was actually supposed to do something. He mocks him, saying the terror in his eyes is still there, and clearly, he just needs another good beating. He promises that if the kid forgot his place, he would gladly re-educate him from square one, and this time, he will carve that obedience right into his bones. He gives a truly sickening smile. But instead of giving up, Do Hyung sinks his fingers into the broken wall. He admits the freak is right. He is absolutely terrified and wants to run. But he remembers exactly how it felt to run away and survive by turning his back on his friends, doing absolutely nothing to help them. Suddenly, his stone core violently reacts with the debris around him. Massive bricks blast the chains apart as Do Young yells that living like a coward was suffocating him, and he is done running away. Shocked, Han Kichul realizes the kid actually absorbed the rubble, fusing it to his body to build a massive weapon. Roaring, Do Young charges like a bull, throwing a colossal boulder-sized fist. He screams that even a terrified coward wants to protect his friends just as much as anyone else. The sheer force of the shockwave blows the riot cops and soldiers straight down the hall. They violently skid across the concrete, dropping their guns in panic. Following through with his monster punch, Do Young stands there panting heavily. The whole area is completely destroyed. But as the dust settles, Han Kichul is standing there without a single scratch on him. He points out that smashing those bricks just sent debris flying, doing absolutely 0 damage. Smirking, he calls the attack so weak, it almost put him to sleep, asking if the kid really thinks he's that stupid. The plan is painfully obvious. His buddy sneaked off to grab Lim Naren. He smugly reveals a strike team is already on their way. Right on cue, Da Young collapses as guards move in to secure him. Suddenly, the radio crackles. A panicked voice warns the director that the entire internal security squad just got wiped out. Han Kichul freezes in shock. The voice on the radio screams that the intruder is a high-risk mutant. Trying to process this, the director looks down and catches a faint smirk on Do Young's face. It hits him. This kid was the real decoy all along. Furious, he orders his men to deal with Do Young. He's going after Lim Naren himself. Meanwhile, Geo shatters the locks, gently shaking her awake and promising he is here to get her out. Still groggy, she looks up in pure confusion. Geo gives her a warm, reassuring smile until suddenly metal chains shoot out from the shadows. They blast right from the director's hands. The heavy links snap tightly around Geo's neck, completely locking him down. Han Kichul laughs, calling it his lucky day. 2 incredibly rare test subjects just dropped right into his lap. He snarls, demanding to know how this rat dared to sneak into his lab. Hearing that voice, Geo slowly turns around. Has it really been 3 years? The cold, suffocating grip of those chains brings all the trauma rushing back. The director spits out that his guards are trash. A total waste of money. No matter how much tactical training these guys get, they're useless against mutants. He glares at Geo, demanding to know exactly who could wipe out an entire squad alone. Is he just another lab rat turning on them like Do Young did? Geo stays dead silent, his hands gripping the metal around his throat. Taunting him, the director asks if the cat got his tongue. He assumes the kid is paralyzed by fear, but Geo's eyes are ice cold. A flashback hits. A younger Geo cowers inside a dark closet, shaking in terror. Suddenly, Han Kichul pulls the door open holding a lollipop. He softly asks why he keeps hiding, whispering that there is nothing to be afraid of. He tells the boy he needs to be brave and help his friends. Geo looks up, his voice trembling as he asks if that's true. The twisted doctor promises that if Gio just endures a little more, the other kids will be spared from the tests. The innocent kid asks for a promise, and Han Kichil swears on it. Smash cut to his surgical table dripping with fresh blood, that same lollipop tossed onto the dirty floor. Checking his data, the mad scientist coldly notes that his little friends will be so grateful. Gio finally realizes the sick cycle is repeating. He is just using the people he cares about as bait to fuel his twisted research. Back in the present, Han Kichil cheerfully announces the next test is checking his chain's durability. He yanks them hard, listening to Gio scream. The metal wraps around Gio's wrists, binding his fingers tight before a brutal snap breaks the boy's neck. The director casually logs that it took exactly 3 seconds for the bone to snap. Disappointed by how weak he is, he dials down the force. Instantly, another steel link whips through the air, brutally smashing into Gio's body again and again. The chains blur with speed, completely pinning his arm. Gio grits his teeth. He would gladly die right here if it meant dragging this monster to hell with him, but he has to survive. For his friends. Clicking his pen, Han Kichil suddenly jumps back. He watches in pure shock as the tip of his metal chain starts mutating. He panics, wondering how this is even possible when his weapon has totally fixed limits. His mind races to analyze the power structure. Yanking the boy closer, he remembers a crazy theory from an old research paper, claiming that pushing the core to its absolute limit forces rapid evolution. His eyes light up with greed. If he can force these chains to transform, the combat potential would be limitless. So he unleashes hell, shredding Gio's body without mercy. Smiling like a psycho, he actually thanks him. He mocks the kid, claiming he's the key to his next breakthrough. Meanwhile, Gio just stares, sickened by how this freak is still using his body to discover new ways to inflict pain. Ignoring the agony, Gio digs his fingers deep into the tight metal collar. The director observes him, noting the classic signs of a healing mutant. But something feels off. The kid is completely paralyzed, and it isn't the physical bindings keeping him down. The second Gio's body registered his presence, he just gave up the fight completely. That is definitely not how you react to a total stranger. He snaps at him, demanding to know if he was one of his past test subjects. Boom! Gio spots an opening and launches himself forward. He lands a devastating right hook straight across the researcher's jaw. Han Kichil is absolutely stunned as his unbreakable chains violently shatter. The raw impact blasts him backward. He tumbles across the hard floor like a rag doll, violently slamming spine first into the concrete wall. Gasping for air, he crumples to the ground. His brain scrambles desperately, trying to process what the hell just happened. That kid was completely locked down. Before he can react, Gio strikes again. Blasted back a second time, the director screams internally that this is totally impossible. Even a heavy-hitting strength mutant couldn't pull this off. Those chains are pure solid steel, you can't just snap them with raw brute force. But then he spots a massive detail. The chains are violently twisted. He wonders, did this punk actually do that on purpose? Gio coldly states that chains can easily handle a straight pull, but they completely fail against sideways pressure. He explains that forcing all that tension onto a single link makes it snap right away. While that twisted scientist was testing out his sick methods on Gio's flesh, Gio was busy memorizing every single detail about him. Han Kichil grinds his teeth in pure rage. He summons even more chains right out of his own hands, hurling them straight at the boy. He screams at him not to get too cocky, just because he broke a couple of toys. The chains shoot straight for Gio, but he doesn't even blink. Suddenly, Kichil totally shifts the attack path. He molds the chains into massive iron wrecking balls and sends them smashing down on him. But Gio blasts forward with explosive speed. He flawlessly dodges every single chain in his path right up until one of them snags his ankle. His eyes instantly dart down. Kichil laughs at his little trick of twisting and breaking the chains, but brags that the whole game changes when they strike from absolutely everywhere, coming in from the sides, the back, or even sweeping right under his feet. He shouts that there is nowhere left to hide, telling the kid he is absolutely nothing special, just because he broke a couple of metal links. As the deadly weapons close in, Gio flashes back to when he was nothing but a fragile skeleton. He drops his head, dodging entirely on pure instinct. He launches himself out of the way of a fatal strike from behind, landing perfectly and ready for the next clash. Kichil just stares at him in absolute disbelief, but Gio realizes he didn't just snap a couple of random chains. He remembers the countless chains that used to rip through his flesh in the past. All that endless torture taught him exactly how this monster uses his weapons and exactly where his defenses are wide open. He memorized every single attack pattern and snatches a flying chain right out of midair. Kichil is totally frozen in shock. Gio yanks the chain with brutal, terrifying strength. He uses that momentum to drag the mad scientist right toward him. Gio coldly tells him that he knows exactly how to use these things, because the guy jammed them into his body over and over. With that, he brutally slams the scientist into the dirt. Gio unleashes all his pent-up rage into his punches. Kichil desperately blocks with a tangled mess of chains. He is completely lost. How the hell does a mutant built for healing pack this kind of crazy physical power? Blood goes flying through the scientist's teeth. Kichio scrambles backward on pure survival instinct. He realizes Gio is dodging absolutely everything and effortlessly landing counterattacks. The sick doctor finally connects the dots. This kid was definitely one of his old lab rats. Kichio smirks, asking if he is here for some payback or just trying to play hero for his kidnapped friends. He finds the whole thing pretty funny, mocking the boy for looking like a piece of tossed-out lab trash. The crazy scientist adds that it is incredibly rare to see a piece of garbage grow up this much just to become a lab rat all over again. He gives a twisted warning saying he is going to run tests on the kid one more time. Kichio sneers, asking if the boy really thinks he has him all figured out. He tells the brat he is dead wrong. The twisted doctor reveals that he never uses his real stats during testing just so he never gets stabbed in the back later. Kichio claims the kid has only seen a tiny fraction of his true power. He hurls a spinning buzzsaw at him, yelling that Gio picked a fight with the wrong guy. But Gio just talks back, explaining that the faster that saw spins, the easier it is to predict where it is going, all thanks to centrifugal force. The boy steps in and delivers a brutal gut-wrenching punch straight into the doctor's stomach. The heavy impact makes Kichio vomit up a massive amount of blood. The scientist's brain is scrambling. How on earth does this brat know the exact weak spot of his chains? He quickly uses his chains as a shock absorber so he doesn't get blasted backward. But Kichio had never ever shown that trick to anyone before. He is freaking out over how the kid got this intel. The desperate scientist screams that it was just blind luck and it is never happening again. Kichio unleashes a massive barrage of chains all at once. Gio's eyes dart around processing every single flight path in just a split second. The boy dodges the whole swarm like it is nothing. Gio coldly calls him out, stating that the doctor can only change and attacks direction if the target is closer than 2 meters. Kichio is totally speechless, standing there completely dumbfounded. He cannot wrap his head around how this brat figured out yet another hidden secret. Right then, Gio goes full throttle, charging at him with everything he has got. The kid plants a devastating punch right in the doctor's face. While getting rocked, Kichio scrambles, his brain trying to remember who this boy actually is. He just cannot fathom how a lowly test subject got their hands on this kind of combat data. The paranoid scientist always kept everything under wraps to prevent exactly this kind of nightmare. He simply cannot remember ever running tests on anyone who looked like this kid. Suddenly it clicks. Kichio thinks back to a healing mutant who witnessed all of his sick experiments up close. The image of that frail little skeleton flashes into his mind, and in that exact second, Gio viciously body slams him straight into the dirt. Kichio lets out an agonizing scream on impact. The entire floor shatters to pieces beneath the scientist's back. Gio just coldly pulls his arm away. Darting back in a flash, the boy dodges every single chain, trying to snag him on the rebound. He creates distance with perfect calculated moves. Kichio realizes the kid knows the exact limits of every chain, and even the gear's weak spots. The scientist knows nobody learns all that just by skimming stolen files. He figures it out. This has to be Kim Gio himself. Gio confirms it. The scientist points out he isn't just immortal, but his healing speed is off the charts. He demands to know what happened to his test subject. Gio tells him it's a long story, and he'll gladly share it once the creep is locked up in a cell. But the scientist just bursts into a crazy fit of laughter. Gio asks, "What's so funny?" The madman says he just can't help it. He spent so much time hunting down this immortal body, and here Gio is walking right into his trap. And now, he finally gets why a guy like him was such a prize. The old lab directors were obsessed with him. Gio asks where those old directors are now. The scientist shrugs, saying they dropped off the subject, but he has no clue where they went. And honestly, he couldn't care less. That doesn't matter. What matters is his test subject came back even stronger. He wraps the chains around a steel pipe, admitting Gio is on a whole new level now. Normal chains just won't cut it. This next experiment is going to be wild. He smirks, saying it's great to see Gio again. Crushing a chunk of iron, he figures that forcing it down boosts his strength and clots his blood. He'll give up using the chains for a few minutes just to get more power. Gio realizes the enemy is pouring every ounce of force into those chains, and he knows he needs to back off right now. But the scientist rushes him with crazy speed. He's dead set on ending Gio before he can even blink. Chains wrap tightly around the pillar, slicing a deep gash across Gio's face. The scientist brags that he just built a custom instant lab right here for him. Gio tries to throw a punch, but the enemy controls the chains and violently jerks him backward. He gloats that he has completely locked down Gio's muscles. The chains will slice through his flesh the exact second he tries to heal. It deals brutal direct damage right down to the bone. He declares that this is Kim Gio's absolute limit. No matter how much power he gained, their dynamic hasn't changed one bit. Gio is still the lab rat and he is the scientist. Fighting back is pointless just because his heart keeps him alive. Even with super fast healing, his body can't take the pain forever. Dozens of chains will shred him to pieces, bit by bit. Pinned down like this, he can only do one thing. He can only heal endlessly and nothing else. That is the fatal flaw of Jihyo's heart. But Jihyo grips the chain with terrifying force. Suddenly, every single chain freezes. The scientist is totally caught off guard. He panics, wondering how Jihyo pinpointed the core chain. Jihyo shoots him an icy glare. He remembers reading a note, saying that moving thousands of chains at once is impossible. The main chain isn't meant for combat, and if it shifts, the whole system falls apart. He realizes that's exactly why the guy needed a support chain. Jihyo repeats those words in his head. He warns the scientist he's been waiting for this very moment and violently yanks the chain. He says that if he stops the main link with his bare hands, the rest become useless. Han Kikyol is completely clueless about how he pulled this off. All the chains drop dead. The director yells that he can just make more chains. He aims his hand right at Jihyo, but absolutely nothing comes out. Jihyo calls out Han Kikyol's name. He tells him that back in the day he was powerless, forced to suffer through everything in pure silence. But now he gathers all the blood around him. His heart pounds in sync with his raw power. Han Kikyol tries to deny what's happening right in front of him. He stumbles back, desperately trying to dodge. He screams that Jihyo is just a filthy lab rat, but Jihyo smashes a brutal punch into his ribs. He growls that he's no lab rat and the director is just a pathetic low-level researcher. Han Kikyol coughs up a massive spray of blood. From the heavy blow, the impact sends him flying backward. Jihyo vows that he's going to burn down every single lab. He winds up for another strike, slamming his fist right into the back of the director's neck. Han Kikyol groans in agony, but Jihyo keeps pounding him mercilessly, paying back every ounce of pain he suffered in the past. He grabs Han Kikyol, roughly by the hair. The director just flashes a sick smile, taunting him to hit harder, saying it won't change a thing. He knows Jihyo doesn't have the guts to finish him off, and if he really wanted him dead, he should have snapped his spine. Now, that's exactly why he can't take a life. He smirks, warning him that backup was delayed by 30 minutes, and the army will be swarming the place any second. Then he calls out to Jihyo again. He mocks him, saying if he's so mad he can just keep punching him, all he wants for the next 10 minutes. But Jihyo responds by landing a brutal hook right to his face. Blood streams from his mouth. Han Kikyol is totally shocked by the sudden brutality. He begs Jihyo to stop, while Jihyo just stares back with ice-cold dead eyes. Jihyo zeroes in on the guy's heartbeat. He points out that while the dude is trying to play it cool, his racing heart is spilling all his secrets. The moment Jihyo draws blood, he can feel their pulse. It's like a built-in lie detector, letting him know instantly if someone is faking it. He calls him out, saying half of his words were total garbage, especially the part where he claimed the info about his friends would die with the director. That pounding chest says otherwise. Han Kikyol forces a laugh, warning Jihyo not to bluff, claiming his heart is just regenerating. But our boy isn't having it. Jihyo grabs him by the collar, ripping off a piece of his ID badge. He looks him dead in the eye and tells him he reeks of fear. Terrified that Jihyo just found the memory card hidden right inside that researcher badge, the very drive holding all his precious data. Han Kikyol lunges to snatch it back but gets a massive fist to the face instead. The punch sends him flying across the room with brutal force. The guy scrambles to his feet, absolutely furious. He charges at Jihyo again, screaming that nobody is allowed to touch his stuff. But Jihyo just unleashes a merciless combo on him. He finishes it off with a brutal strike, leaving the researcher completely battered. Jihyo thinks back to when the guy bragged about keeping all his data in his most prized possession. His racing heartbeat is all the proof Jihyo needs. Han Kikyol knows he is completely ruined if he loses that drive. Panic sets in, he cannot let this happen. His mind flashes back to his childhood in the lab. A cold voice echoes telling him his parents were killed in an accident. He had awakened to power, but it was pathetic and his control was even worse. That earned him a miserable F rank. Because he was useless, the higher-ups ordered his heart to be ripped out and sent to the materials lab. The other kids started whispering, and the boy was paralyzed with fear. Begging for his life, little Han Kikyol cried out for them to wait, swearing he could be useful. He pleaded that he had a gift for analysis and could process their data. The doctor just stared, asking if he had anything real to prove it. Desperate, Han Kikyol handed over a file revealing he had secretly analyzed the abilities of the other test subjects. He ratted them out, explaining that one boy could manipulate metal, while a girl could melt through walls. They had been plotting a secret escape. Feeling betrayed, one of the kids slammed his head into him, screaming that they promised to escape together. But the doctor just swatted the kids away and stepped forward. As the children crumbled to the floor, the doctor looked down at Han Kikyol, asking one more time if his analysis skills were truly that good. The doctor noted that the report was full of junk data, but admitted it was a pretty clever trick for a kid. So he decided to spare him, taking him in to test his true worth. but he warned the boy he had to prove his value right then and there. Snapping back to the present, Geo mentions he heard the other lab rats gossiping about his past. He mocks the researcher, pointing out he was just a discarded test subject like the rest of them. Han Ki-chil screams, cursing him out for digging into his trauma. Without blinking, Geo just starts snapping that precious memory card right in front of his face. Panic shatters his pride. The researcher drops to his knees, begging and promising to give Geo absolutely anything he wants. Geo orders him to write down the exact locations of the other kids along with the full prisoner list and every single transport. Han Ki-chil violently nods and grabs a pen, but Geo demands he read it out loud while he writes so he can listen to his heartbeat and catch any lies. The broken man starts talking. In his head, he is desperately hoping backup will arrive soon. He just needs to buy a little more time. He scribbles down the details as fast as humanly possible, but Geo shatters his illusions, telling him to drop the false hope. Nobody is coming to save him. The police have totally locked down the area, blocking every road. He is trapped here until the bitter end. Han Ki-chil starts shaking like a leaf. He realizes they are going to steal all his life's work, and Geo has zero intention of letting this guy walk out alive. He just wants to burn his entire legacy to the ground. Once this is over, the lab will toss him away like trash anyway. Nothing else matters now. Those files are the only thing keeping him breathing. If he can just sneak out with that drive, he can survive this mess without rotting behind bars. Acting on pure desperation, he slowly starts loosening his chains, praying Geo won't notice a thing. Out of nowhere, a barrage of sharp thorns blasts into the chains. Geo whips his head around in shock. Han Ki-chil is instantly torn up and bleeding out. It is Lim Na-rin rubbing her head and groaning about a massive headache. She glares at the researcher, demanding to know what garbage he spiked the water with. Han Ki-chil is stunned. He pumped her full of heavy sedatives. Yet here she is fully awake and pissed off. He realizes if he doesn't make a run for it right this second, he is a dead man. But before he can even twitch, massive thorns impale his arms, pinning him down. Na-rin steps up, her voice dripping with venom, telling him it is payback time. She tells him he cannot even fathom the burning rage she feels just looking at his pathetic face. Every single memory of him makes her blood boil. Geo just watches her in stunned silence. Meanwhile, Na-rin doesn't hold back. With a flick of her wrist, she drives a thorn straight through the researcher's eye without a shred of mercy. She coldly mocks him, telling him to at least put some clothes on while playing scientist. The doctor is now a bloody mess full of holes from head to toe. She sighs, muttering about how annoying this whole mess is. Geo suddenly grabs her arm to calm her down, but her deadly thorns instantly whip around and aim right for his throat. He barely tilts his head in time to dodge the strike. Glaring at him, she snaps, asking who the hell has the nerve to interrupt her revenge. Geo holds his hands up calmly, telling her to hold off on killing the scumbag just yet because they still need to